what I did was start duplicating prescriptions. It went over so well. I started doing it more and more and more, right? All of a sudden, it was a highway patrolman was coming to my apartment at night and shining a light in my apartment window. I opened the door, dude, and they were laying on my car with AR-15s or whatever, pointing guns everywhere. Get on that ground, man. They ran up and handcuffed me and picked me up, and they start screaming at me, "Where's all the guns? Where's the guns?" I'm like, what? I don't have any guns. I was born in DeSoto, Kansas. I had 4 sisters, lived with my mom and dad. They got a divorce when I was like, I don't know, 16, 17 years old, something like that. I was already pretty much out on my own anyways. And I didn't have any real, I drank and did a little drugs and stuff, but I didn't really do I wasn't into any real criminal activity, nothing. I'd never been to jail, nothing up until, one time I did. The very first time I ever went to jail, I was driving home from work, and I got pulled over, and they said I had a suspended driver's license. I went to jail. It was for one night, and it wasn't suspended. Of all things, it really wasn't, and they had to let me go. So nothing came of that. But years go by. I get married, and I have a couple kids, and I developed a pretty significant drug problem. Like I started doing a bunch of Xanax and methadone, right? And it just turned my life into it was like a fucking, just a mess. It just started spiraling out of control. It took a few years.
Why Xanax and methadone? Like what?
Okay, well, I don't know. I just ran into that combination of drugs from somebody I knew, and it worked. It's fantastic when you mix them together. It's the highest you can get.
Advocating.
Huh?
Not that you're advocating anymore.
No, I'm not.
It is amazing.
Hey, it was
amazing though. But
it is amazing. It wasn't amazing. It was an extremely addictive too. I mean, I was really addicted to it real fast. So what happened was I couldn't stop taking it because you get so sick. A couple days. Probably if you Xanax will make you really sick after. A couple months of taking it. If you try to, you can't just quit taking it. You'll get so sick. This is what happened. It's a big roller coaster. If I wasn't high, I couldn't go to work. I couldn't get up and go to work, and I couldn't take care of myself. So it's just I'd get so sick. I couldn't get out of bed. And so I'd have to go to work to get enough money to go get some more drugs, and then eventually I figured out how to go to, they have what's called methadone clinics. Right. They have them all over the country, but they have one, they have a few around here, and I figured that out. It was before the whole prescription, or before they check on it, and you could go to a couple of them at a time and stuff. So it got worse. It gets worse and worse. Well, I get up to where I'm like, I don't know how old was I? Like 40, 45 years old, and I'm married. I got 2 kids, and we're living together. Yeah, at 40. I think I was 40, 41. And me and my wife getting a big fight. And I left that night. It's fuzzy. It doesn't really matter. But I left, and I didn't really have anywhere to go, so I just got away from the situation. I thought the cops were going to show up. Now I don't think they did that night. But the next day, I'm driving around. I'm like, man, I got to go home sometime. I think my drugs were at home or something. But anyways, this is how it all starts, man. This turned into a fucking shit show. I go pulling up to my house. And I get out of my car, and I open the door. Fucking everybody, cops from all over the fucking place, just come storming me like I'm Hitler or something. And I'm like, oh fuck, oh my god, I can imagine myself in jail with no drugs. I'm gonna die in there. I'll die. I gotta do what I can while I can. And I took out this bottle of the rest of the drugs I had, and I ate it all, everything I had, and so they come storming up there. I didn't even move. I was literally like in the jam of my door, and I just pulled it out of my pocket, and I took it all, and they come storming in there, arrest me, and I can remember this. I can remember getting in the cop car, and them asking me what happened between me and my wife. What did I do? What did she do? Whatever. And they're taking me to jail, and I black out. That's it. I can't remember anything. I don't think we made it out of the city limits. And I black out. And and you know how I don't know if it's ever happened to you before, but you have little bits of, little bits of memory. And I get to the jail, and there's this guard there named Osborne. I got to know later, but he's trying to book me in, but I can't. I'm so incoherent. I I can't answer the guy's questions, you know, and I couldn't hardly stand up to get fingerprinted. And he was like, I remember him saying, come on, man, come on, let's just get through this. What did you take? What did you do? And I couldn't answer no questions, nothing. So he had to hold me up during the mugshot. And this literally there's two cops on both sides of me, and that's what I looked like in this mugshot. I was passing out. And then they knew something was wrong, but they didn't know what it was because I couldn't answer the question, right? So they put me in medical, and medical is nothing but a cell with a bed, a plastic bed. You know, if you've ever been in jail, medical, it's not medical shit. There's no like, it's not like a hospital room. There's just a plastic bed. And like a day later or so, the door opens, and a bunch of cops come storming in, and they're on both sides of me, and they throw me a bunch of paperwork, you know, and it's a bunch of it was a bunch of charges. I can't remember what they were, but the main thing was I couldn't go back home. I had a restraining order. I couldn't go back to my house. You know, I was charged with whatever the crimes were. Okay, it was domestic violence, destruction of property, and a bunch of other misdemeanors. Right? No, really not that big of a deal. But this is the first time I've ever been to jail, and I couldn't go back to my house. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I'm stuck here in jail. I don't know what I was wearing. A pair of tennis shoes and some jeans. You know, my car was at home. Everything. I don't know how I got it, but anyway. So eventually, I did go back home, got some stuff, got my car, and I think I went to my sister's house. I don't know where I went, but that's how it kicks off. So I go to court the first time in court, and they assign me this insane idiot public defender. It was a woman, totally incompetent. This woman, well, first of all, I know she'd never ever been to a trial. Now, how long she'd been a lawyer, I'm not sure if it was that day she was new or what. But she gets to talking to me, immediately trying to get me to take a plea. You need to just, I'm like, what? I didn't do that. I didn't hit my wife. Yeah, I tore up some shit in my house. You were fighting and stuff, but I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't fucking hit anybody, or, you know, nothing. It was no violence at all. And the shit's mine. What are you talking about? Get off, you know, this is my stuff. Who gives a fuck what I break? So anyway, I'm not having it. I'm not taking a plea because I think I don't know. I should have, but I thought I'm not guilty. I'm taking it to trial. And right away, she gets real nervous and trying to talk me out of it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I told you you know, I thought you were my lawyer. You know, what are you talking about? And she even tried to say, you know, where's your wife? And my wife was in the car. It was funny. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not supposed to talk to her. I'm not supposed to talk to my wife. She goes, well, if I find out you're talking to your wife, I'll have to not be your lawyer anymore. I'm like, what? Okay. I didn't realize that the lawyer isn't supposed to know you're guilty or you can't outright tell your lawyer that you're guilty, and then they can't defend you in good conscience. Like, let's say you committed murder. I don't think you can tell your lawyer, yeah, I did it. No. But let's try to beat it. Well, I didn't know that.
You could tell them, but then they can't allow you to get on the stand and contradict that.
Is that how it is?
Yeah, they can't allow you. They can't put you on the stand and have you say, "I didn't kill that girl. I don't know what you're talking about." They'd be like, "No, we can't do that."
I mean, but here's what I thought. I thought the lawyer was there to lie through court. I mean, I thought that was their job. I had no idea, right? So apparently she wasn't on board with it either. But it wasn't for that reason. It was just because she was an idiot. I'm a stone cold idiot. But I keep pushing it. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Why would I take a plea on something like that? It's ridiculous. Even if I got found guilty, what would be the worst thing that could happen? What would happen? You could go to jail for a year. I'm like,
they're going to give you probation.
I don't think I'm going to go to prison or jail over this. I don't think so. Right? So I push this and push it and push it until they do it. They're like, there's a pre-trial, you know, and this lady is just, I'm like, I didn't know what was wrong with her at the time. I'm like, are you that fucking stupid? Are you really that stupid? And I pushed it until finally there was a trial. There was a jury trial. And this is a totally true story too. And I hadn't been really talking to my wife. It was back and forth. It was on and on, just a mess, right? I know I wasn't living there. I know that. I wasn't living at the house, but she had to be a witness in this. She was the witness. It was the only witness they had, right? Because it was the whole thing was against her. Well, by this time, she doesn't want anything to do with the whole mess, anyways, right? But I had pushed it all the way to trial, all the way up until even through the jury selection. She had no idea about anything about jury selection. I'm like, are you kidding me? You don't know that you can strike jurors, and we don't want. I don't want any. My thing is, I'm like, I don't want any male jurors. Women hate women is what I thought. I'm like, women hate women. I want all women on my jury. I don't want no males on my jury, right? She's an idiot. So we get through it. We get through, and the more it goes on, the more nervous this idiot is getting, right? And we get through this trial. We get through that, and we get to this trial. Okay, it's a real jury trial, and this woman is 10 times more nervous than I am about this whole trial. And I still didn't get it. I'm like, man, what is wrong with this weirdo? And the prosecutor gets up. They get to speak first. I know they spoke first in this deal. The prosecutor gets up and he starts babbling on to the jury about, folks, this is what he said. Folks, this isn't like CSI. There's not going to be any DNA in this case. There's not going to be any this and that in this case. This is a case of a madman at the end of his rope. This man's crazy. He's a wife-beaten lunatic, or he just goes off about what a horrible bastard I am, And then she gets up. It's her turn to get up and fucking defend me. And she's so nervous about talking in front of the jury and the judge and shit. She starts repeating what the guy said. I mean, like verbatim, like, folks, this ain't CSI. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in it, So it gets rolling, and they, I think they only had, I think she was the only witness. But I think maybe they had some state people. I don't know. But anyways, my wife is there and she gets up on the stand and they start asking her questions. And she's like, I don't know. I can't really remember. I don't really know. Well, did he hit you? I don't think so. I think I just said that, this stuff. So this drive, listen, this goes on for quite a while. And the prosecutor's getting pissed. This guy's getting he's mad at her. He's pushing her. And then I think, okay, it comes time for my lawyer to cross-examine her. And she gets up there and just starts like insulting my wife. And I'm like, in the middle of the trial, I'm like, hey, that's enough. That's just sit down. That's enough. Enough's enough. That she just sounded so bad. I'm like, just sit down and shut up. I said it in front of the jury, and I'm just shut up. Please shut up. And we get in a little argument, and I'm like, okay, that's Your Honor, we gotta have a break, whatever. And he's like, he excuses the jury. They get up and they walk out. And he's like, okay, what's the problem? I'm like, she's an idiot. She is a fucking idiot. I mean, you can see she can't even understand the difference between overruled and sustained. You're killing me here. You got to do something. You got to stop it. You can see this is just lunacy. And he won't do it. Judge Sumby, by the way, that's who this was, the guy that throughout this whole thing. He won't do it. He won't. He's like, no, it's too late. We're too deep into this. We got to keep going. But the prosecutor comes over with a note and he hands it to my lawyer. And I'm like, hey, what the fuck is that? Give me that. And it says, hey, it was a deal. They said, hey, right now we'll go back in the jury room and we'll give him a chance to find you guilty of a lesser charge. How about that? And I was like, okay. That's what I told him, okay. She said no or something. She's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, what are you fucking nuts? Go tell him that, So anyways, we have a break. This is an absolutely true story. And I go out in the hallway and there's a guy sitting in the hallway and it was just me and this stranger in the hallway. And I strike up a conversation with the guy and come to find out it's the husband of one of the jurors. And he's like, man, what the fuck is going on in there? He starts asking me about this case. And we're standing at this window, looking out the window of the courtroom. And I go, man, listen, my wife she's fucking crazy. She's out of her mind. She's not thinking straight, whatever. And we're looking at the window of the parking lot. She fucking stole my truck right out of the parking lot, right in front of me and this guy. I'm like, she's fucking stole my truck, got the keys and drove off in the middle of the trial. She was a witness. And now I'm stuck there with no ride home. I'm like, you see what I mean? When you get home, tell your wife the truth about this whole case. I mean, she can't hear. She's on the jury. She doesn't know what's going on, how crazy it is, He goes, oh my God. Well, what's going to happen to you if you get found guilty? And I'm like, I don't know. They said, it could be up to a year in jail, but I don't think they'll do that, you know? So anyway, long story short, they come back and they find me not guilty of everything except for the lesser charge that the prosecutor offered.
Your wife, listen, your lawyer was right. You shouldn't have let them charge you with the lesser charge. Then they would have just found you not guilty.
They may have. I don't know. Yeah, there very well could have been. And it was like a miracle. I couldn't believe it. I looked at I'm like, you idiot. You owe me because you won this effing trial, you know? So I think sentencing I think it went straight from that to sentencing. Or it might have been a couple weeks. Either way, we're back in the courtroom. I got the same idiot with me. And the prosecutor literally said this. So the judge says, yeah, he was found guilty of something. It was super minor, destruction of property, I think. The prosecutor stands up and he says, Your Honor, I know that the jury only found Mr. Bickelmeyer guilty of destruction of property, but we all know. We were all here during the trial. We all know that he's guilty. And he tries to get me sentenced to the actual sentence. And I'm like, elbowing my idiot lawyer. I'm like, what? Listen to what he's saying. Can't you object to this or say so? I've never heard anything like that. Trying to get me sentenced for something that the jury found me innocent of. You know, now, of course, the judge was like, I ain't doing that. I can't say. They found him not guilty. I can't sentence him. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe this is fucking happening.
This doesn't feel like a super sophisticated legal,
criminal justice system.
Yeah, criminal justice
system.
It
is though. It's in Leavenworth County, dude. It's kind of a big deal. I mean
they sound like they're really, really they're winging it.
Dude, here's what I think happened. Now, from my later experiences of which goes on for quite some time. So I get to know all these players in this, including her. In fact, I went to traffic court the other day and seen that idiot there. I mean, oh God, I can't stand this woman. She's still there. She still works there. I think it was the first time. It was her first month on the job, and the lawyers and the judge felt sorry for her. They were trying to help her, through the whole thing, so she could keep her job or whatever. I don't know. I bet you she's never been in the trial again since. I bet you that. But she won, so she has a 1-0 record because of me.
She's amazing. She probably thinks she's amazing. Oh, I'm amazing! I won my first trial.
Can you imagine what the prosecutor felt like? The prosecutor was serious, and Todd Thompson's, that's his name. I still remember it. That's how I hated the guys, so I hated the whole prosecution. It feels so personal when they're prosecuting you, doesn't it? It's like they care. I know if they don't care, really, they don't even think about you, but no. I just want to choke them. You know what I mean? They don't care. They don't go home and think about you. They think about you 10 minutes before the case when they're looking at the paperwork. Oh yeah, it's Bickelmeyer again. Oh, I hate that. You got a red mark over my name. a highlighter with a red mark.
Right. I got a smiley face with a frown on it. I must not like this guy.
We don't like this guy. We don't. He's mean. He's mean to girls. Oh yeah, my lawyer said that. So I said, I'm giving her a bunch of shit. And she goes, yeah, well, maybe you just don't like women. Maybe that's your problem. I said, what? Maybe you're an idiot, man. How about that? Maybe you're just a complete bumbling moron.
I'm a huge fan of women.
Yeah, I love women. Absolutely. No kidding. Nobody's a bigger fan of women than me. Trust me.
How do you think I got here?
So anyway, that all comes and goes. But now, it came with some stipulations like 6 months of probation, but it's not really sophisticated probation. Like you got to go once a month or something like that. Right. But I'm in the middle of a drug crazed lunacy. I can't hold myself to, you know what I mean? I'm not going to make it through 6 months of any kind of supervision, dude. I'm out of control. Right. I can't do anything. It's like my brain was put in a blender. It was horrible. I couldn't hardly function. I mean, I was passing out at stoplights. I passed out on the highway on the way to the methadone clinic one day. I mean, that's how bad it was. So you can imagine me trying to keep a job, right? I have a bunch of credentials, so I can go get a job in the field that I'm in. I can always get a job in that. Yeah, but I couldn't, man, I would try to hold this together. Man, it's so hard. Try not to go there as high as I was going to be, but eventually they start seeing it, right? They're like, oh man, something ain't right. Something ain't right with this guy. One day I'm not kidding. I drove all the way from my house in Eudora, Kansas to my job in fucking Missouri without my shoes on. Forgot to put my shoes on. And I get all the way to 635. I'm like, I gotta turn around. I should have my fucking shoes on. That's how bad it was. Okay, now that's towards the end. But so, anyways, I get out of court. I get found guilty of that one crime, and so that kicked off everything. So now they're over my shoulder watching me, and I got to report, and I got to pass the drug test, which I can't pass. I can't pass the drug test. There's no way. It's just impossible. I can't. I mean, it would take weeks. I can't. I'd be dead in the gutter before I could pass the drug test. So I don't think that was a stipulation at the time. It was just real. You had to go to work and start paying your fines. None of which I ever did. I never paid $1 of the fines. And I refused to. I just didn't want to do it. I'm like, what are they going to do? What are they going to? Well, they can actually. They can send it to collections and put it on your credit report. But they really can't force you to pay it.
Right.
So, anyways, I never did. I didn't. I'd make a little $50 payment or something. My probation officer asked. So, anyways, I'm on probation, and I'm not living at home. And this is when it got really bad. Since I'm not at my house, and me and my wife we're separated, and I can't even remember where I was living at. I wasn't living alone. I was either with my sister or my mom, and I have all these people looking over my shoulder, and a bunch of I'm supposed to go to the ridiculous shit they had me doing, some kind of classes I had to take, something, just little shit like that. But I couldn't keep it together long enough to do any of this stuff. So let me see what happened next. Okay, so
how are you getting money to continue doing drugs? How are you getting money?
Working.
To do that?
I would work. I would just work until I got fired. I go get another job. I'm really good at what I do. I just had to. I could keep it together for a few weeks. You know what I mean? And I can do stuff on the side. It's a long story, but I can make money. I never was out stealing for drugs. Because I would be, by the time I just couldn't do it. I mean, I used to sit around and plot drugstore robberies and drugstore heists. I mean, I'd sit out in front of the drugstore looking, seeing when they got there, thinking about it. I just never had the guts to do it. And I was too, if I was sober, I was too sick to rob it. And if I was high, I didn't care. Why would I want to rob the drugstore? I already got a bunch of drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I never got around to robbing the drugstore like I planned. But here's what I did do.
I interviewed the guy that did that movie, Oxymorons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen the movie. I have to watch it.
They used to rob drugstores.
There's a movie with Matt Dillon in it called Drugstore Cowboys. You seen that?
Was a great movie.
Yeah.
The hat on the bed. You remember that? That was a big deal. They threw the hat on the bed, and they were like, someone took a hat off and threw it on the bed. And they were all like, it was bad luck. It was bad luck.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I got real close to robbing drugstores, believe me. So what I did was start duplicating prescriptions, which went over real well. It went over so well. I started doing it more and more and more, right? And here's how that ended. This really happened. It was so simple. I'm like, dude, is the numbers on here and everything? All I got to do is just copy it. I mean, why can't I just go to Kinko's and make a bunch of copies?
Right.
So I did, right? And it went great. It was for like a long time until finally one day I went to the pharmacy, and you're always a little bit nervous, waiting for your prescription to fill, And the pharmacist called me up there, and she goes, "Hey, listen, I know this isn't a real prescription, but I have to report it. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes to go as far away from here as you can go before I do anything about this. And don't ever come back in this drugstore again." Ooh. I said, "Okay, I'll see you later." So I never did it again. I never got caught. Luckily, God damn, I don't know what's the statute of limitations. It's been long enough. It's been like 6 or 7 years, right? Most of the time. I should know that before I started talking about it.
Could be 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so it's been longer than 5. Yeah, I went to jail. It's been longer than 5, so I can talk about any of these crimes. There's some. So yeah, that I wasn't out stealing. I was doing stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I did that. It worked for a while, and then I had to go back to buying it or going back to the clinic or whatever. And then eventually I just got a crooked doctor. This doctor in Leavenworth. This is connected too. He gets busted. You could just go in there. I was taking people in there. It was like a pill mill. Just like that guy that, and you just get whatever you want. I'd have other people go there. I had this whole thing set up. I could get whatever I want. And then the guy gets busted. Now remember this for later. He gets caught. The doctor gets caught, and they didn't put him in jail, but they prosecuted him and took away his license, and he couldn't prescribe drugs anymore. But this is important because later on it'll come up about the lawyer. So that was not related to the story really, but that's what happened. That's how I was getting the drugs. Anyway, so this goes on and on. I keep getting in trouble. Let me think about what happened next, because it gets really serious. Okay, my wife, while I'm going through this, my wife separates from me, and then we start fighting over the kids. Right? I have 2 daughters who I love, and I could not be around them. And it's turned into just a giant shit show. So we're fighting over the kids, and there was another case, something to do with the kid. We start they have to mediate or something. I don't know. So that turned into something. And this took a couple years. Let me think about what happened next. So I went to jail for that. Then I get arrested again a couple times for like calling my wife, breaking a restraining order. I'm going to jail constantly. Every time I come to the town, they see me and pull me over and take me to jail. So this starts my jail career, and I start getting to know the people in the jail and the jailers and stuff. And so let's make it short. This went on a couple years later, it's really bad. The drug addiction is out of control. I can't do nothing. And I go to work one day, or try to go to work one day, and got fired. And then what I did was I went to my in-laws' house to drop something off. And by this time the restraining orders are real serious. They're taking them real seriously now, right? Because I've already been caught, and they're pissed about it. And they don't have nothing to do in this stupid town anyways, but watch idiots like me. So yeah, and they're excited. They can't wait to arrest me. You know what I mean? They barged my house over a traffic ticket. So, but they're serious about it. And I went into my in-laws' house to see my kids or something. And I wasn't scheduled, and I wasn't supposed to be there. Right. But I didn't think it was any big deal. And I wanted to see my daughter. I knew my daughters were there. And so I walk in, there's nobody there. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Where's everybody at? I mean, I've been in this place a million times. I never knock on the door. I was always walked in. By this time I'd been married for like 10 or 15 years. And, I go back home, and this is when it really gets hairy. So I'm on probation, no job. I just got fired. I don't know what I'm going to do. And, I'm going to I still got to go to the clinic. I still got to get drugs. I got to do something. I got to have money. I'm getting real freaked out about it. Well, all of a sudden, this cop starts, it was a highway patrolman was coming to my apartment at night and shining a light in my apartment window. I lived in this apartment right across the street from the police station at this time in Eudora, Kansas. And this cop, a highway patrolman of all things, I have no idea why. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't know what was going on. I really didn't have any idea, but I had a clue. This is what I thought. That a day or so before, I'd gone to this Casey's in my small town I lived in, and I was giving this Casey's a ration of shit. I hated the people that worked there, and I was stole gas a couple times. I'd done some stupid shit at the store, and they weren't supposed to serve me right. They weren't supposed to turn the pumps on when I pull up to the thing. So I pull up to get gas one day. The lady won't turn the pumps on. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm pushing the button and turn the fucking pump on, right? She won't do it. Okay. So you bitch. You bitch. Okay. So I pulled my car up beside her car and slashed all 4 of her tires. And said, yes, like an idiot. Dude, this turns into a fucking manhunt, dude. A manhunt. The people from Casey's are hunting me down, trying to find out where I'm at. And they call the cops. And the cops are calling me. And I know what that's about, okay? So I think that's what's going on with this highway patrolman. It's no big deal. Whatever, if they catch me, they don't know it was me that did it. They just suspect it was me. You know what I mean? I'm not an idiot. I didn't do it when I was on camera. It was really a cruel thing to do. And if I knew the lady, I'd pay her back. I really would, but I don't know who it was. Now she was an idiot anyways. So I think it's a manhunt over some slashed tires at Casey's is what I think is going on. And the guy's shining, and I'm hiding in the fucking bathtub in my apartment. And that wasn't what it was. So anyways, I get up the next day, and I got to drive around this town hiding from the cops. They're right across the street. I get up early and take off out of and go run my errands. My main thing was I had to get to the clinic or else I was going to die. If I didn't go to the methadone clinic, I was going to get so sick. And, I get up and go do that. And when I'm driving home from that, my fucking probation officer calls me. What are you doing? She never called me for nothing. I'm just running some errands. What's going on? Can you come in and see me today?
No.
What? Yeah, that ain't a good sign. Nobody's ever called me and asked me to come in and see him. I know what it is. but I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really, I'd been doing a bunch of stupid shit, but I didn't know. I knew it was serious at this time. And I said, no, I said, I don't know what's going on. She wouldn't tell me, And she goes, okay, forget it. You got a warrant for your arrest. You better be in here within the next hour. Now I know, right? Now I know. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? Oh man, what am I going to do? So no job, no, hardly had any money. So right then I'm driving back. I'm driving back from that phone call, and I passed the police station. I got to turn to go to my apartment right across the street from them. They're all gathered around in the fire department area. There's a whole bunch of cops, man, and they're all gathered around. And I pull up and have to stop at the stop sign right next to him, dude. I could almost touch them, and they all turned around. There he is. Get him, get him. And so I'm like, oh fuck! I pull into my driveway, park, and I run inside, shut the door, and I start dialing my bondsman. I'm like, oh fuck! I'm about dropping the phone, and I get the guy on the line. Hey man, the fucking cops they're oh my god, they're surrounding my apartment, dude. You got to make sure you're at the jail when I get you to the jail and find out what the bond is. And I thought it was just the tire thing. I didn't know, right?
What was it?
Okay, listen, dude. I'm in the bathroom, and I had a bunch of money in my pocket. Luckily, I don't even know how I had it. It's a couple $1,000s, I think, and I think that's where I had it. But anyways, I took it out of my pocket, and I told the boss, I said, dude, it's in my apartment, in my fucking bathroom drawer. Just come get whatever you need and come get me out of jail. I knew the guy real well. I still know him to this day. And I slammed I put the phone down. I heard him. They had like a megaphone. Michaelmeyer, come out with your hands up. Don't make any fucking crazy moves, or and I'm like, oh my fucking really? Oh shit. And I think I called my sister. Oh my god, Amy, listen, the cops are surrounded my apartment. She goes, well, go out there, go out there. And dude, I was scared to open the door, but I knew just within a couple seconds they were going to throw flashbang grenades through they were all over. I looked out the window. They were across the street. There was cops everywhere. The whole fucking block was lit up. And I opened the door, dude, and I'm not kidding. They were laying on my car with AR-15s or whatever, pointing guns everywhere, guns all over the place. Get on the fucking ground, man. So I got on. I did everything they said, and they ran up and handcuffed me and picked me up, and they start screaming at me, "Where's all the guns? Where's the guns? Where's all the guns?" I'm like, "What? I don't have any guns. What are you talking about? What do you mean guns?" So they just like pull me to the side. They storm in my apartment. No search warrant, no nothing. I don't know even if they'd have found something, if they could have done it. There wasn't nothing. There was no fucking guns. I don't have any guns. So they storm in. They come out, and they're like, "There's no guns in your house." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell you. There's no guns. What are you talking about? I don't understand what's going on. What's the warrant for?" And they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't tell me for a while, and they were like, "Just wait a minute until our boss gets here hold on a second. We got to figure this out." I'm like, yeah, I'd like to know what this is all about. All my neighbors are looking out the window. You know what I mean? Everybody in town knows about it because it's right on Main Street, too. And finally, this chief of police who I happen to know from that, getting in trouble in that town, he comes walking up to me and he's like, "Michaelmeyer, what's going on?" I'm like, listen, dude, I'm not the one with the guns. I don't know, but they're asking me about guns. Where's all the guns? They told us that you wouldn't come out alive. You wouldn't come out alive. I'm like, oh my God, what? Yeah, what are you talking about? He goes, who would say that? I'm like, dude, I don't have any fucking idea who would say something like that. I really didn't know. I'm like, and he goes, man, they about got you shot. I'm like, yeah, I see that. And he goes, well, all right, well, that's good. That's it. But you do have some warrants. And I'm like, for what? What's the warrant for? Well, you got one. This is the only one I remember now. I tried to get some stuff from the courthouse. There was a whole bunch of charges, but the only one I was worried about was aggravated burglary. That was the charge that they tried to charge me with, basically, for going to my in-laws' house. And they said they were there. They just hid. They just went and hid. Whatever. It was a long time ago. They were pretty mad at me too, but maybe they did go hide. I don't know. They said they were in the house when I was in there. I walked right in the living room. Hey, where's everybody else? Looked in the refrigerator for something to drink. You know what I mean? It was ridiculous. I don't know what the motivation was to do it. I think they just wanted me under control. I was a loose cannon. Like, who does that at Casey's, and passing out at I mean, I just wasn't, wasn't all with it, and they knew it, and they just wanted something to happen. They wanted me off the street. My whole family, everybody did, so they did it. So it worked, so I go to jail, and, you have a bond hearing like the next day, right? And still, I'm still, dude, totally confused about what's going on. No, I mean, I had an idea. I knew what it was basically about, but I didn't know how serious it was at all. I didn't have any idea of the severity of this situation. And it took a couple days. Finally, I go to bond court, and it's a huge deal in there. There's a prosecutor in there. Your Honor, I'm here on special appearance. She wasn't the regular prosecutor. Just like, basically, they tried to say this. We had to drag an extra prosecutor, special prosecutor here for Mr. Bickelmeyer. He's out of control. This man he's a danger to society. And by this time, I was already in segregation in jail for something I did in jail. So I'm in red. I don't know if they do that there, but they put you in red in this jail. So they can identify.
I know you're a problem.
Yes, you're a problem. I'm in red already, and I haven't even been to bond court yet. And they're like, as you can see, Mr. Bickelmeyer is handcuffed and shackled, hand in a red jumpsuit. He's obviously out of his mind. He can't be controlled. He's a madman, and I'm like, oh my, what? Well, we got to get him a lawyer. So here's where it starts, man. So I think they assigned me that idiot woman again, I think is what happened. I'm like, oh my God. But this is so serious, man. I'm scared. It's felony. There's a felony. I've never faced a felony charge before. And that's what's got me shook up. And the fact that I'm in jail and I have no drugs, no access to drugs, and I'm about to die from withdrawal, which is a legitimate concern of mine. I was really worried about dying. I knew I could detox if I could live through it, but that's how bad it was. I'm serious. It was really, really, really bad. So they set the bond at like $150,000 or $250,000 over this ridiculous case where I hadn't even been to no evidentiary hearing or anything yet. The bond is just ridiculous. I'm like, I can't. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. I remember, so I leave bond court, and it's setting in now. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm going to be in here for a long time. And I told the jailer in the elevator, I said, man, listen, I'm going to be in here a long time, and I don't know if I'm going to make it. It's going to be bad. What can I do? And he said, okay. The guy was really cool about it too. He said, listen, let me get everybody put, back to the pods and everything, and you just stay here, and I'll come get you, and I'll take you to the medical. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Maybe they can help you. No, dude. They don't care either. That's the thing. They want you to suffer. That's their purpose. That's what they think. You know what I mean? So they take me to the nurse, and she goes, okay, what are you doing? And I was honest with her. I'm like, listen, lady, you've never met anybody like me. Listen to what I'm doing. This is very serious. And I tell her, I lay it all out, dude. And the quantities, I'm like, I have to have this and this every day, or else I can't walk, really. And she's like, yeah, well, we've heard that before, and you're going to be okay. And she says, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. She gives me a styrofoam cup. Just drink a lot of water, and we'll keep an eye on you for a couple days. We'll keep you in medical for a couple days, and just drink a lot of water. I'm like, oh God, I know it's coming. I know these serious withdrawals, and I've been through it before on my own. So I knew it was going to be bad. And so they put me in medical. And now, mind you, I've only been in jail for a few days now. So I'm not even hardly getting sick yet. By the third or fourth day, it is when you start getting a little bit sick. But it takes about a week before it's really out of your body and you're really, really, really sick, right? And so I'm already in segregation at this time anyway. So thank God. So that's all medical is anyways. It's a cell with nothing in it. It's no different than the cell that you were in, and they just don't want to come upstairs where you're at and come check on you. And they have to if you tell them you're going through withdrawals, they don't have to do shit until your blood pressure drops or something, and then they give you like a Tylenol. It's nothing. And I think they gave me a Tylenol once the entire time. I mean, they'll let you die in there. You could have a broken arm, and you wouldn't go to medical. You just suffer through it. They won't do anything about it. And I'm like, oh Jesus, I'm gonna die in this fucking place. And but I didn't. I went back. I went through the whole medical thing in the jail where they come in it was horrible. They come in every 15 minutes and take your blood pressure. They wake you up all night long. It's horrible. It's worse than being, so just put me back. I'll just suffer through it. So they put me back in a regular pod, and I'm sick and worried too now because you have to be able to defend yourself in jail to some extent. I mean, you have to be able to at least try to fight. You know what I mean? And it's a fairly violent jail. It's a maximum security jail. I think it's as secure of a jail as it can be. You know, there's nobody. You can get out and walk around in the pod, and this pod's real loud and you know. So I got in a fight in that pod. Went back to segregation, so I'm stuck in there, which actually turned out to be better because I was at least alone and it was a little bit quieter, you know. And I couldn't eat, man. I probably weighed, I bet. In fact, not too long ago, I got a traffic ticket and I had to, I missed the court date and I had to go turn myself in, you know, just go through booking and pay the fine or whatever, which is what I did. Well, when I went to that jail, they all seen me and they were like, oh my God. And they got all the other cops. They're like, come down here and look at Picklemeyer. And they're like, oh, I gained like 100 pounds. You know, I weighed like 150 pounds. And when I went in when they first seen me in that jail, they were showing me old mugshots. Look at this. Look at him. You know, look, you can't even tell the difference. I mean, you can't even say it's the same guy. You know, a bunch of the people from the jail, they all knew me. They're all there. The whole crew is still in that fucking jail. And so anyway, where was I? So I'm in jail. I'm sick. I'm dying in this cell. I mean, I really do think you can die from withdrawals like that, especially from benzodiazepine withdrawals. You can actually die from it. Now, if you're an alcoholic in jail, they treat you because they know you can die from alcoholism, you know, and so they'll do something for you. They do a lot. They give them all kinds of medication and shit. I think they give them Valium. You imagine that? They give them Valium there. I would have killed somebody for Valium in jail. So I'm in jail and I'm realizing court dates are going by too. So I'm so sick, man. I mean, I can't exaggerate the how sick I was and scared to death. Never been in jail before for any length of time. Up until then, I think the most amount of time I'd spent in that jail was a day or two, you know, overnight a couple times. A lot of times. Actually, I think I got arrested like 15 times or something between the very first time I got arrested and this last time. Just a whole bunch of times anything I did, they would come arrest me for. It was just ridiculous. I got arrested like 6 times. Get this for I would be out in my yard on and off throughout this whole deal, and I'd go home and get an argument with my wife, even inside of just a minor argument, nothing even big, and boom, all the cops would just show up out of nowhere. I'm like, man, who's calling the cops? Who even knows I'm here? Every time I pulled up, the cops were there, you know. So it happened a bunch of times. So I was in and out of that jail a whole bunch of times. But this last time I get stuck in there. I know I'm not leaving. I'm about to die from withdrawals in there. It was so bad. I thought, you know what? I'm not leaving. I got to get better somehow, and I gotta do everything I can to take advantage of this. You know, at least I don't have to get up and go to work. I didn't have to go to work, and I wasn't worried about paying my bills. I could at least calm down and focus on trying to get off these drugs that I was on. That was what was steering my whole life anyways. I couldn't get out of this roller coaster mess. And so I remember they let you out in sec to go take a shower and they give you like a few minutes, 15 minutes for the phone or whatever. And I thought, well, I'm going to start walking up and down the stairs, trying to get my body back. And I could barely walk up the stairs. That's how sick I was. I could barely make it up to the top tier of the jail. And it's only like 25 steps or something. But I mean, I just almost had to crawl up the stairs. I couldn't do it twice the first time, you know. So I started doing that. And I still wasn't clear-headed. It took months and months. But so the whole time I'm sick and this is what's going on. They got me on all these charges and they assigned me that lawyer again. I think I had to get rid of her first. I'm like, man, I can't have this idiot on this case. It's way too serious. So I had to figure out a way to get rid of that. And like I said, you can't just fire a lawyer, which I didn't even know you could fire lawyers. Somebody in jail taught me that secret. I got both this felony case going on. I'm in jail, and now my wife we're separated, and now she wants like full custody of the kids. This is the big
you're in jail.
Yeah, and I'm in jail. Okay, and I had to fight that situation, which was more serious to me than anything else, and the felony case at the same time, and it turned into I didn't want to get convicted of this felony because of that, because then I would lose. I wouldn't have any say so over my kids and stuff, and it was serious. They could use it against me, you know. and I was trying to get the child case, the custody case delayed, so I could try to beat this felony, right? And I didn't want them to settle on anything until I had the time and chance to fight the felony cases that I had. There was more than one. There was a number of them. And I'm stuck in jail. It's really difficult to fight a case from jail where you have bond, but it's not a reasonable bond. Who's going to get out of jail on a $150,000 bond? A gangster? Right. I'm not a gangster. You know what I mean? I don't. Right. It was too much money. I mean, I think one other time I had a real high bond one time. It was quite a bit. And my sister, I got one sister I'm really close to, and she got me out, but it cost a lot of money. And this time nobody was getting me out. Nobody was gonna, 15 grand. Nobody was putting up 15 grand to get me out of jail. They knew how sick I was. And had I not been sick and all that, they probably would have, my family, they would have found a way to get me out of jail. But I think they thought it was, maybe we just better leave him in there for a while until he gets better, let him handle it himself.
Let him dry out.
Yeah. And that was good. It worked. It did work. But so that's where I start trying to fight this case, man. And it's a big deal to me. I didn't want to be a felon. And they're saying this: you could go to jail for 4 years, prison for 4 years if you get convicted of an aggravated burglary case with your criminal history, Mr. Druckenmeier, which included no felons. No felon. You have a misdemeanor for this, a misdemeanor for that. Which if you get 3 misdemeanors, it does equal a felony. Right. But I hadn't done that. It had to be the same exact charge in Kansas anyways. If you get 3 misdemeanor charges for the same thing, like domestic violence, I think it has to be even against the same person 3 different times, it turns into a felony. Well, I didn't even have that. I didn't have nothing. It was the only felony I had. And this woman is telling me that they're going to put me in prison for 4 years. And I'm like, I was believing it. I thought, God, that's horrible. I can't go to prison for 4 years. And she's an idiot. I can't have her on my case. So I started having I had to finagle a way to get rid of this woman. And I had no idea how to do it. I'm like, oh, you're stuck in jail. What are you going to do? You don't really have a say-so over who your lawyer is, But I did learn from being in jail. Somebody told me, why don't you just, and a lot of it was delay too. I was trying to delay the felony case so it didn't interfere with the case with my kids. I didn't want them to, now if they go to court and my wife wants full custody of the kids, she's going to get it because I'm in jail. Look at this maniac. He's in jail. He can't even come see the kids. You know what I mean? So I'm losing that. If I don't win this felony situation, I'm going to lose that situation. So I'm paranoid about it. And I'm trying to delay that case. Okay. It's as hard as I can. Every ridiculous thing I can think of to delay this child in custody case. And, I had another court-appointed lawyer on this one, but the problem with this guy was I liked him a lot. The guy was a drunk. I'd say his name, but I don't want to get sued for like ruining the guy's law practice. He was an older guy from Leavenworth County, and he was a nice guy. He owns a couple liquor stores in that town. Everybody knows him, but he's drunk all the time. He was drunk in court. He would come and I could smell booze on him. Like, oh my God, dude, I can't believe you're. And he's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just this will get you through this. Don't worry about it. I'm like, Jesus, man. Okay. All right. Okay. And he was taking care of it. He was taking care of this. I was happy with what he was doing, but he didn't want to delay it anymore or something, or couldn't delay it anymore. It was getting to the point where I couldn't put it off anymore. So I thought, well, what can I do? What can I do to get this case delayed? Well, I can fire my lawyer. That's what I'll do. I'll fire my lawyer. But I hate to insult this guy and be rude to him. I like him too much, But if I fire him, they'll have to give me more time to get another lawyer. But you have to have they have to have a reason to do that. You can't just. The lawyer basically has to say they can't communicate with you, or they don't, or some. They have to be the ones who say they don't want to work for you anymore. But you can't. They know what you're doing. So I'm in jail, and by this time you get to know the guards and stuff. And there was this one woman there, and she was nice, and and I didn't want to give this woman any shit really, but in this situation I kind of had to. So my plan was, I'm going to go to this hearing, and I'm just gonna raise hell in here and cause it to be delayed. I mean, I can do something to delay this case. And what I'll do is what I was thinking was I'll fire my lawyer real loud like and real obnoxious like. And so the woman comes and gets me and shackles me up and puts me in the elevator, and I kind of know her. And I said, boy, just wait till you see what happens in court today, so and so. It's going to be a real show in there. I can't wait to get in there and talk to old dude in there and stuff. And she's like, Bill Maher, you keep yourself under control in there. I don't want to have any problems with you in that courtroom. I'm like, don't worry about it. It ain't going to be any big deal. I gotta get an extension. I gotta get one, and man, I didn't know I was going to make this woman this nervous. She was nervous about what I was going to do in this courtroom. So comes my time. They call my case. They open the door. She walks up. The guard stands right behind me and my lawyer. And I'm going to fire this lawyer anyways. And I was going to tell him, dude, I'm sorry. Got to get rid of you, man. You got to go because I got to delay this case. I didn't even get that out of my mouth. And by the way, he was drunk too. I swear he was drunk. He was kind of, he knew what I was doing, and he was kind of chuckling about it. Well, I got up in his ear to talk to him, and the lawyer, the guard was right behind me, right in my face, like sticking her face out. And I'm like, I turn around, I go, do you fucking mind? Right in the hole. And she goes, oh, that's enough. That's enough. I've had it. She picks me up out of the chair, just grabs me up out of the fucking chair and starts pushing me out the door. I'm like, oh, yeah. I start arguing with her right there. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? We start going back and forth, bickering back and forth, and I kicked the door. I remember I kicked the door open so hard that I had like my hands behind my back, and bam, I kicked the door open to get out of the courtroom. So it worked. It actually worked. They had to delay the trial now, but so they did. But I still had the same lawyer. I still had the same guy. I didn't even have time to fire the guy because this idiot officer got too shooken up about what was going on. She gets in there, she starts screaming at me, and I said, look, I wasn't going to do anything violent. I didn't mean to. That's not what I meant by saying I was going to cause a problem. I just meant I was going to get a little bit loud with my lawyer, not with the court or anything. What's wrong with you, one? Well, that's, and she's in the elevator pushing the panic button for some reason. I gotta get some male officers down here, So when they open the elevator door, man, there's 1,800 cops out there come storming in there. What'd he do? Drag me out and throw me back in the cell. But it worked. They delayed it. Okay, so now I'm back on my felony case. I have this other idiot woman lawyer who I somehow they let me get rid of her. But that case was getting serious, and they assigned me another lawyer, this other guy, and so I tell him the whole story about what's going on, and I'm telling him, listen, I can't go to jail, I can't get convicted of this, and here's why: I have this other case going on, right? And this is so. I got this male lawyer on the felony cases. I can't remember his name. Didn't like him. He listened to my case, didn't want to fight it. You know how they are. They don't want to fight the case. I still don't know why they really don't want to. I don't know if it's that they don't want to make themselves look bad by losing the case, or they're just not really interested in doing a whole lot for you. You know what I mean? This guy didn't care. And so what happened with my other misdemeanor cases, they let me get rid of that lawyer, the drunk lawyer, and I got this other lawyer named John. His name's John, and he's on my case. And I start noticing, hey man, this dude's for real. This guy will fight. This guy's a fighter, and I get to know him. I get to know him a little bit from talking to him before and after court, and he'd come see me in the jail a little bit, and I start begging him, hey man, I think it would make sense if you were on these felony cases too, because it would just be, I think you do a lot better. You know what I mean? Understanding all the dynamics of this case, about why I'm trying to delay that trial so I can get out of, you know what I mean? You could understand all this. And no, he doesn't want to do it. He just wanted, no, I don't want any part of that. I just, he won't even talk about it. So, he's on my other cases now though. So that's good. I at least got him that far. And so I got this, I'm in jail. It's been a couple of months. I had this other lawyer, and I tell him the whole story. He won't fight. So I'm like, okay. And now I understand that you can delay the whole thing by firing lawyers. So that's my whole strategy. That's all I had at the time. I'm just going to keep firing lawyers until I get out of jail somehow. You know what I mean? I don't know what else I'm going to do. I can't fight it from in here. Really, you just can't do it. You can't fight. Not very well. You have these lawyers that you can't even hardly work with. So My whole strategy was to get rid of these lawyers.
Okay, so the one lawyer, you like the one lawyer, the other lawyer you got to get rid of.
No, I had to get rid of the lawyer on the misdemeanor cases. That just to stall that case is really the whole strategy is just to stall it all.
Yeah,
try to get out of jail. Try to really fight it. Because you can't fight it from there. I was so sick I couldn't use the phone. I think I heard you talking about this too one time. I got to jail and I was so disoriented and so out of it. I couldn't use the phone. You have to type in your inmate number and all this stuff. It was so complicated. Yeah. I had to have somebody come help me. I mean, as ridiculous as that is, that's how I was. I couldn't think straight. It was just, oh man, it was a cloud. It was horrible. It was miserable. So by this time, anyways, it's been a couple months. I started getting better. And I'm like, well, I pretty much already lost everything anyways. I don't really have anything else to lose. I don't even know what I'm going to do when I get out of jail. Right. I have nothing to lose now. Forget it. I'm fighting tooth and nail. I'm not giving in an inch for anything. And I was like, especially if I'm not signing anything. They kept telling me, every lawyer I had said, listen, I think if you just plead guilty to, they could lower the felony charge to like from aggravated burglary to burglary or something like that. We can get you out of jail. We can get you out of jail today, but you're going to be a felon. I'm like, well, no, then I'm not. Why would I do that? I mean, why? I'm here now. I don't care now. I got all the time in the world. I'm not giving in. I'm not signing any plea from this fucking jail cell. I'm not doing it. I mean, that's blackmail. That is something wrong with the justice system. They got you in prison or in jail, which is hell. And they're telling you, well, you can go home anytime. You just got to sign this piece of paper. You know, everybody in that jail, in the pod, everybody knew my whole entire case, and they were all pissed off, like, oh, you're an idiot. You signed it. I'd be out of here in a minute. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not you. I don't steal from Walmart, dude. That's not my career. That's not what I do. I'm not you know what I mean? I gotta go to work, and they might do background checks or, I just don't want to be a felon. I'm not guilty anyways.
Right.
And that was so no. And I can't be a felon because then it's going to interrupt this whole child case. I don't want to lose my kids and lose the rights to no way, dude. Nobody understood the complexity of this case. Nobody did, except for John, the one guy who understands the whole freaking mess. And he was refusing to get on my case for God only knows why. I still don't know to this day. He won't tell me why. And I think the reason is he just thought I was crazy, because every time at the time when I talked to him, I was crazy. I was just out of it.
Yeah, he's just I can't deal with this guy.
I can't deal with him.
He's going to be a problem for the rest of my life. I know these guys.
He's going to be a problem. I don't like him. And he didn't like what he'd heard about me, I think was the deal. And he knew the whole case inside and out. He was friends with my other lawyers. He knew them all. You know how and this guy, he was connected. The guy's connected. He's just a smooth talker. He doesn't even have to really talk. He knows everybody. Everybody likes him. He gets everything he wants. And everybody who has him as a lawyer, they leave jail. They don't stay in there. You know what I mean? He's serious about it. He doesn't want you in jail. If you're his client, he doesn't want you in jail. I'm like, man, I gotta have this idiot on my case. I gotta have him on this felony case. And I'm begging him, and he starts making up reasons why he can't do it. I don't know what his problem was. I don't know why he would. I mean, it didn't seem like he didn't like me. So anyways, but right now I have this problem with this other lawyer that they got. This guy, he's just an arrogant, just a jerk. I didn't like him. He used to be a cop, and he just didn't see any reason to fight the case. He just thought he just wasn't going to do it. Basically, he says, I'm not, he's just not going to do it. He's not going to go do any homework about it or even try. So I'm okay. This guy's got to go, but that's difficult because he doesn't want to go really, and he's not going to give up. He say it's like a personal thing with them that I was trying to fire him. Like, you're not going to fire me. I'll show you. I'm the lawyer here. So anyway, I'm still on bond, this stupid high bond. And I start trying to fire that lawyer, and the judge, now remember, by this time, my wife is involved. This is a small community. My wife's involved. She has a couple of her own lawyers, and they're public defenders. So I'm connected to that. A couple of, I can't have the same lawyer she does. And she has a public defender. How many public defenders are there? There can't be very many. So I start plotting. I think, well, let's fire them all until I get to John. They have to give me this lawyer. They don't have any choice. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Not give me a lawyer, right? So I think this is brilliant. Oh, this is a great idea. This is going to work. Once I got that guy on my case, I'm out of here. And I just knew it. I could tell. I knew he wouldn't be able to, he wouldn't let me sit in jail anymore. It'd been too long. So anyway, this lawyer, that was a real problem. I can't shake this idiot off my case. So the first thing I did was I started telling, my sister knows this whole story, and I'm talking to her from jail. And she is, by this time, sick of me being in jail. I've been in jail for a long time. And she goes way out on a limb and hires this big wig, fancy law firm. I can't remember the name of this, but it was a high dollar law. It was a big deal. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, damn. One day they come to my jail, my pod, and they got me. And they say, hey, somebody's here to see you. And I'm walking down there, and I could see where the lawyers are and stuff, and where they let you meet with them. And I've seen this woman lawyer stand in this really nice suit. She's real tall, and I'm like, who is this? And I walk in there, and she's all real professional. Mr. Rickelmeyer, I'm so-and-so from such and such law firm, and your family has hired me to defend you in this case. I'm like, oh, really? Nice. All right. Now let's get down to business. So I don't even need a public defender anymore. I got this kick-ass lady from this law firm who's going to go out of her way and just like they say, if you got your own lawyer, if you got your money to hire your own lawyer, you'll get out of it. You know what I mean? Well, so I spent hours talking to this woman, hours plotting this case, like all my ideas about how it could be, you know what I mean? And she listens to all of it. And I say, hey, do you know, by the way, do you know these people? I mean, I always think this, it would be a little bit dangerous to hire somebody outside of their circle. Outside of the circle, they don't like that stuff. Lawyers coming in from the outside think they're hot shots, coming into their courtrooms and telling them what to do. I thought that was kind of like, man, I don't know, that might be a little bit dangerous. And she starts telling me that, the first thing she says is, hey, let me ask you, who's on your misdemeanor cases? Who's your lawyer on that? And I'm like, John Bryant. She goes, oh yeah, that's good. That'll work out. He'll fix that. I'm like, yeah, I know. I tried to get him on this case, but he won't do it. Little did I know I could have just hired him. I didn't know you could hire the guy. I thought he was a public defender. I had no idea. Okay. I had no idea I could just hire the guy. So this woman, I talked to her for hours plotting this case, and it comes time to go to court. And I said, I tell her, I said, listen, the first thing we're going to do is let's get this bond reduced down to a reasonable bond and just get me out of jail. It's just, let's just try to get it. I didn't say get me out of jail. I said, just let's get the bond cut in half. It's $150,000. And I know that he's the last time I was in court, I asked for bond because my lawyer wouldn't do it. The man, I said, Your Honor, I want to ask about bond. And he goes, yeah, how long have you been in there anyways? And he's looking at his paper, and I'm like, I've been in here for 6 months. He goes, wow, 6 months? I said, yeah. And he goes, okay. I'm gonna set a bond hearing. I'm like, yes, good. This is good. He knows I've been in there a long time. He's loosening up. This guy's, I'm gonna get a bond reduction. They hadn't given me not one in this entire length of time. I've been in jail now for 6 months, dude. 6 months, which is a long time, which is about to surpass the amount of time that I would really have to do if I were convicted. You know what I mean? Now they're saying you're going to do 4 years in prison, but the truth is, it would be a miracle if you got a year. I think on a year in prison, right? That's ridiculous. First time, they're not going to sit. And the guy lawyer did say that. He said, "Listen, dude, what are you so worried about?" I said, "I don't want to go to prison." He goes, "Oh man, you ain't going to. They're not going to put you in prison, man." Now I said, "That's not how they're acting. They're upset. They're acting like they want me to go to prison." He goes, "Listen, I've been doing business in this courtroom for. I know that judge. He's not going to put me in prison." I was like, "Really?" Because I still don't want to be a felon. No, I don't care. I don't care if they let me out today. I'm not going. I'm not leaving until I'm not a felon. So, anyways, he goes away, and this woman lawyer comes in, and we start strategizing, and then she asked me what to do in court. This actually happened to me. I said, "Okay, listen, just all I want to do is get a bond reduction. Please get me out of this jail. I've been here for 6 months. Get me out of this jail." And she looks at me straight in the face and says, I'm not going to do that." I said, "What? You're not going to do what?" I'm not going to embarrass myself by asking for bond in this case." I'm like, embarrass yourself by asking for bond? That's your fucking job. What are you talking about? What are you talking about now? What? You're not going to ask for, why would you do that? And so the session ends, and I go back to my cell. I'm like, man, this is weird. Why would she not ask for bond? I mean, that's her job to get. She's again trying to get me to take a plea, and this is what she's telling me. Now, listen, I know some of these people, and I know I can get you a really good deal. I can get you out of jail, and you won't go to prison. And all you have to do is agree to 5 years of probation. And I'm like, and I'm going to be a felon for the rest of my life. I mean, there's no getting rid of that.
Right.
Yeah, but listen, it's no big deal. It's 5 years. I'm like, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to me.
It is a big deal.
So the next day we had court, and I'm like, I got to get rid of her. I got to get rid of this woman. Now this is a real issue now because my sister paid a ton of money. This is no joke of a lawyer. This is when it was a big firm. It cost a lot of money. I don't know exactly how much. I never gave. I think it was like $10,000 or something ridiculous.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
For one
for a state charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, the money first of all could have been used for my bond. My sister wasn't gonna do that, but she was connected to this firm because she had her son had been in a bunch of trouble, and they'd beaten a bunch of the cases, right? Well, for some reason this woman won't do it. We go to court the next day, and I thought I got to get rid of her right now before there's any more money spent on this idiot. And she's gonna destroy me. She's not willing to fight. I'm not doing it. So we go to court, and the judge says, man, they actually called a special session. It was like out of the blue. It wasn't a scheduled court date. It was like once I had her, they had a special hearing, like the 2 days after I got this lawyer or something. Just all of a sudden, it was like after hours. They called me up there with my lawyer and the prosecutor and everything, and they think they got a deal. This woman really thinks that she's got me talked into this deal or something. I don't know. Well, I knew I had to get rid of her, and so as soon as I walked in the courtroom, they start talking. I'm like, wait a minute, just everything stop. There's no point in me even being in this courtroom because this woman doesn't represent me. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I said, no way. She doesn't represent me. And the judge, by this time, the guy knows me. I've seen him 100 times. He's pissed. And he actually says, okay, what exactly is the problem? I said, I'll tell you exactly what the problem is. I talked to her for hours, and she agreed to do something that she's now unwilling to do. And he's like, long story short, he said, well, you can't tell your lawyer how to defend you in court. I was like, what? I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that was the case. It is the case that you can't.
Right.
You can't. Right. Well, I'm like, okay. Well, I don't have to. What I can do is not pay her. Nobody's gonna pay her any more money. I'm not gonna come in this forum and have her. I can fire her. I don't care. Yes, I can. I can decide. But no, she's not gonna get paid anymore. She's not my lawyer. Forget it. And he goes, Mr. Bickelmeyer, I'm gonna step out for 10 minutes, and I'm gonna let you work this out. You two work this out, and I'm gonna come back in, and we're gonna get this all straight. And I'm like, don't even bother. Don't even bother. I'm not doing it. And man, they all threw up their hands. Oh, forget it, man. Whatever, And this woman couldn't believe it either. And right. I remember I get up and I go and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to explain this to my sister? My sister has no real clue what's going on, but she just dumped a boatload of money on this lawyer. And I remember I'm like, oh my God, I better tell her. I got to tell her before she tells her. The lawyer tells her.
Yeah, she's going to make it sound much worse.
Yes, and she did. Of course, I wasn't fast enough. By the time I'll never forget my sister going, "You fucking fired that lady." And I said, "Yeah, but listen to what she did. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to fucking hear it. Blink." No, that's it. Everybody's done with me now. Nobody,
right.
She was, they're just disgusted that. But the truth was, look, she really did do that. She wasn't going to ask for bond, nothing. And so, the lawyer before I left court, he goes, okay. All right, you want to fire her? That's right. You can. You can not pay her, and that's what you can do. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to give you back so and so. This lawyer. And I said, yeah, I don't think he's going to do it. He goes, yeah. The judge. I wish I had the transcripts. I tried to get him. He goes, yeah. Well, we'll see about that, Mr. Bickelmeyer. We'll see about that. And I said, I guess we will. He goes, we'll be back here. And he's not going to spank me. He gives me another month. We'll be back here in another month or whatever. So, I really got to get rid of this lawyer. I can't have him. And he's got to be the last one on the list. Who else?
This is the old man. This is the old man, right?
No,
The older
no.
drunk, the drunk guy.
The drunk guy's already gone. John's
Oh.
on those cases. Okay, those are the misdemeanor cases. These are the felony situations. And this guy was he was a little bit older than me, but he was not incompetent. The guy was, you could tell he could be a good lawyer if he wanted to be, you know what I mean? But
Right.
I wasn't willing to. I don't know why he wasn't willing to do it, but it didn't matter. He might have been okay, but by this time I had in my head that I had to have John on these cases because he's the only one that understood the whole situation. And the judge knew it too. The judge knew. I think he might have even said, I know what you're trying to do. I'm not an idiot. I've been around for a long time. I know I can see what you're trying to do, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give you so-and-so back. And I said, well, he's not going to do it. He's not, I promise you, he won't take the case. Oh, we'll see about that. And so I didn't know, but I had an idea what I was going to do about this other lawyer. I'm like, I think what I'll do is I'll just write him this real obnoxiously rude letter, and as obnoxious and rude and just talk a bunch of crazy shit in a letter and send it to the guy. And I did it, and it worked. It worked, man. The guy gets this letter, and he's so insulted by everything I said, he just decides he doesn't want to take the case. He's sick of me anyway. And so a month goes by, we come back. This is when it's kind of funny. We go back into court, and it was a scheduled court date. But I knew this other. I just had it in my head. I was pretty sure he wasn't, after that letter I wrote, that he wouldn't represent me anymore. And I knew the judge was going to be pissed. I knew he was going to be madder than hell that it happened. And I thought, well, they might be able to do something, but odds are they're just going to give in. It's been so long, they're going to give in and either give me John, or maybe they won't have a choice, you know. And I walked in the courtroom, you know, you're all shackled up now. I walked in the courtroom, and I looked over, and there was old John sitting there in the chair, like this, with his head between his hands, like, oh my God, he was so mad and pissed about what was going on, the situation. And I swear he was crying. He was crying about it. Like, and I was laughing. I'm like, oh yes, I know it worked. Why would he be in this courtroom if this didn't work? And I sit down, and the judge, he leans back and he says, oh, Mr. Bicklemeyer, last time we were in court, you told me that you fired your lawyer, you fired your paid lawyer, and I'm going to give you, I tried to give you back so-and-so, and you told me I couldn't do that. You told me that he wouldn't do it, and there was nothing I could do about it. And he said, and you're right. There wasn't. You win. And I know what you're doing. I know that you want John on this case. And yeah, my hands are tied now. You got it. I'm going to give you John. He's your lawyer on these felony charges. And he goes, there's only one problem. We got a little problem. And I was like, oh, what is it? What could the problem be? And he says, John can't do it until May. And this is like, dude, it's like 4 or 5 months later. I can't remember when this was. A long time. It was 4 months later so I think back.
By that point, you'll have been in prison for a year.
Almost a year. I would have been in prison. Yes, by that time it would have been a year. It was I got arrested on June 23rd or something. And by this time, yeah, if the time would have went by that he tried to set aside, I would have been in there a year. And so he thought he got me on that one. The judge thought, boy, that you think you're smart, but John has a problem. He can't do it until May. And I turned around and looked at him. He's over there, you know, and I said, that's okay. That's okay. I'll wait. And by this time, I'm feeling good. I'm getting better anymore. I really don't care. And man, I'm not kidding. It wasn't, listen, I looked over at him, and he's mad at me for what I did anyways. And he looks up and he goes, or call me or whatever, you know? So I'm laughing at him on the way out of the courtroom, and I went downstairs, and first thing I did was call him. And he said, yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll be up there to see. I'll come up and see you. We'll talk. Don't talk about it on the phone. I'll talk to you at the jail. I said, well, when can you be here? You know, the judge said you couldn't do it. And he goes, I don't know. I can do it. I can do it right now. I'm like, oh, you can get on the case right now? Yes. Yeah, I can. I said, okay, cool, man. I'll see you. I don't know what they were trying to do. I think maybe they told John, hey, man, we're going to give it, but don't take it until May or something, you know, do some scheduling stuff.
Yeah, there's no hurry.
Yeah, no hurry. But he was to him. But now he's my lawyer on this case. And for whatever reason, he really does care. He does care that I'm in jail, and he's my lawyer. So he comes to see me in the jail. And dude, I thought he was on Xanax or and he, you know, you're talking through the glass on them fucking silly phones. I come down, I was excited this time. I knew what the call was about. They're like, they call you to come down, you got to visit. I come down, he's not even in the lawyer room where they, you know, where you can actually talk to your lawyer and have contact with you if you wanted to. They usually put you in a little room. Well, he was in the glass because somebody else was in that room. So I walk all the way to the end, and there he is sitting there like this, like just not excited at all about this case. And I pick up the phone. I'm like, "Hey, dude, what's going on? Hey, how's it going?" And he's like, "Yeah, all right. You know, here's what I want to do." This is what he says. He says, "Listen, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you think I can do on this case. I know the whole case. I know everything about it. I don't know what you think I can do." And he goes, "But I'll do whatever you want me to do. You tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. But listen, if you go to prison, that's on you. That's your problem." And I said, "Listen, I'll go to prison. I don't care. We're fighting it all the way. I do." And then by this time, I really didn't care. I was starting to feel better, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I got nothing to lose. I don't really care. It's only a couple years. What's the difference between now and a couple years from now? If something happened and I really did go to prison."
You've already done like what, 8 months at this point?
8 months.
I mean,
8 months at this point. Okay.
By the time this whole thing goes through, it'll be almost a year. I mean, you'll have a fucking year on what? A stupid fucking burglary charge that's probably going to give you time served.
Yes. Right. So he says, "Okay." I think he even told me it was at that time. He goes, "You know that, you know who I am, and I'll do what I can." And I said, "Yeah, I know you will. And you understand the whole dynamics of this whole thing." And he goes, "All right, well, what do you want me to do then? What do you want me to do? Smart ass." This is the way he's acting toward me. I said, "Well, here's all I want you to do. All I want you to do, man, is ask for a bail reduction." He goes, "Okay, all right, I'll do it." And I said, "Can you get me a bail hearing?" "Yeah, I can get a bail hearing." I said, "Okay, well, listen." I tell him the whole story about the last time. I'm like, "Listen, man, I was in court, and this is what the dude said." He goes, "Yeah," he's like, "I don't think he's too happy with you, so I don't know." I said, "Man, come on, just get me the hearing. That's all I want you to do, really, is to try. I want somebody to fucking try, get me out of jail, you bastards." And dude, it was like 2 days later, man. 2 days later, I'm on the docket all of a sudden. 2 days, dude, 2 or 3 days later. And I've been in this jail for 8 months, thinking I'm never getting out by this time. And I didn't even care. But I get John on the case, like I've been thinking the whole time, I'll be out of here. A couple days go by, and he's got me on the docket again for a hearing already. It's only been a couple days, maybe the next day even. I mean, it was fast, bam. And they call you down there, and you're with everybody else, and they put you in this little room where there's a window where you can talk to your lawyer. And remember, he's a public defender now, even at this time. He's a public defender for a bunch of people in the jail. And I found out later he runs his own private practice. I didn't know that was the case, or else I would have just hired him. Now, he knows that I hired that woman too, and he knows I fired her. And I think he knows why too. And come to find out, I'll tell you later. So anyway, I go down there and I see him in the other room, and he's like, "Come on in." And so the guards let me in that room, and I sat in, and he goes, "Dude, you're not going to fucking believe this." And I go, "Oh, I bet I'm going to believe it. I bet I'm going to believe it." He goes, "They're going to fucking let you out of here." And I said, "Oh yeah, when?" He's like, "Today, right now." I said, "No shit. What'd you do?" He goes, "Well, here's the deal. You got it." He goes, they're mad because they think you won't loosen up a little bit. That you're just going to make a big mockery out of this whole, it's going to be a mess. They're just worried that it's just going to be a big problem." And I said, "Well, like what? Like what? Like I want to go to trial or whatever?" What's the big deal?" He goes, "Well, you just got to show, isn't there something?" Like I said, "What do you want?" He goes, Can you plead guilty to one of the misdemeanor charges?" I said, "Okay, what misdemeanor charge?" He goes, "I got telephone harassment." "Can you take a telephone harassment charge?" I'm like, "Sold, man, sold. Give me the fucking paper." He goes, "Okay, all right, I'll see you when you get out." Dude.
What were they basing the telephone harassment on?
Nothing. It was they just made it up because all the other misdemeanor charges, like there was some breaking and restraining orders. Oh no, there was some telephone harassment on my part, calling. calling my in-laws when I was out, bitching and screaming and calling people, just being an idiot, just being an idiot. Okay. Was it a charge? I don't know, but they made it into a charge, which whatever, dude, I don't care. And so I think what he did was he goes, listen, let's just close out all this other misdemeanor stuff, plead guilty to this telephone harassment. It's like a no insurance ticket. He said, it's no big deal. It's nothing. I'm like, okay, what's the punishment?
It's not a felony.
Like, no, it's a misdemeanor. He goes, I don't even think it came with any probation. Yeah, it did actually. But it was only like 6 months. I'm like, 6 months probation, dude. Done deal. You know. He goes, all right. And he goes, what are we gonna do after that? And I said, I don't know. Let's just not worry about. And I kind of told him anyways. I'm like, my little strategy. And he goes, okay, you know. He's like, whatever. It's your life, you know. I said, I'm willing to go to prison, do the time, whatever. I'm not giving up. I'm gonna fight this all the way, tooth and nail. He's like, yeah, I've heard that 1,000 times. You know what I mean? That's what everybody says until it comes right down to it. And then they're going to sign anything. I'm like, that's not going to happen, dude. I'm telling you right now, I'm not doing that. So, you know, you're going to have to fight. He's like, I will, I don't care. I'll go to trial. I like trial. I don't care. He's been a prosecutor in this town, everything. He didn't care. He wasn't scared of it at all. I think he wanted to do it. Probably to see me put in prison or something. But anyway, he gets me out of jail, man. That day I go down there and they're like, they dropped the bond from $150,000 to nothing, zero. Sign your name here. And all they said in the trial was, the judge was like a whole new person. He says, you know, Mr. Rickemeyer, you've been in there for a long time. This is true too. He said, and I've been a judge for a long time, and I know that I can tell, I can see drug addicts and I know when I see them, and it usually takes about 5 months for them to start really coming around and getting their head on their shoulders or whatever. And it's been 6 months, and I can see that, you know, you seem a lot better and I'm just going to let you go. I just couldn't believe it. $150,000 or nothing. Okay, out. And so, man, I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to let me go. I still have the felony charges now, remember. And I go down and never tell people in jail you're going home either. They're idiots. People are they're so jealous and you know, I went down to the pod and I'm like, dude, I got a fucking bond. And then some of the you know, the idiots and oh yeah, you ratted on somebody. I'm like, ratted on who? There's nobody to rat on in my case. There's no, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, the people fucking in jail are, man. Yeah. Digging through I got a subpoena while I was in jail, and some people in the pod were like, oh look, Bigglemeyer's name's on a subpoena. I'm like, I can't help it if I got subpoenaed in jail. I'm not a rat. You know, what am I going to do? They slid a subpoena under my door at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? I can't do anything about that. So anyway, they're being idiots in the jail about me getting. They're just jealous that I got out. But it was in March. It was on March the 3rd. Man, I'll never forget that. So, I'm like, I wonder what it's like outside, because nobody knows I'm leaving this jail. The only person that even cared that I was in jail was my sister, my older sister, Amy. She was putting money on my books and on my telephone, you know, and I had some money. But what happened was, if you remember, I got fired from my job right before I went to jail. It was like 2 days before that. And I told her, hey, go to my job and get my last paycheck and stuff, you know. They owed me a couple $1,000s or something. And she went and got it. They gave it to her. They were concerned. They were like, is he okay? What's going on? You know, they gave her the check, and they even let her, I never even signed it. Somehow she cashed the check. I think they wrote it to her, actually. They wrote the check to my sister or something. And she took the check. Might have just signed she could have probably just endorsed your name on the back. And put it in her bank. It was a small check. Yeah. Anyway, so that's how I had money the whole time. But it ran out, of course, because I was talking on the phone. But she was putting money on her and my mom. And but nobody knows I'm getting out of jail. Nobody expects me to be getting out of jail. I didn't really expect it. I knew that once John was on this case, that things would start working out, you know. And that's what I mean. What I was saying about public defenders. Every time I watch your show, people are always bashing them. I'm like, well, they're not all like that. And this guy's one of them. And he was proud of it too. He would say, you know, I'm not like, I'll actually do. I'm not like all the other public defenders. I'm like, yeah, I know. I know. All these people in jail that have had you all these cases, I know who you are. That's why that's why I wanted you on the case. So he gets me out of jail, but they kick you out with nothing. I had just some shoes, some blue jeans, and a shirt, and that's it, man. A bag of I gave everything away. I was going to keep my jail clothes. I give all the everything I had. I gave to the people in the pod that I liked, like my cellie or whatever, which was a bunch of notebooks, and you gather some stuff in jail after 8 months, and they all want it. They'll fight over a bowl or a cup, and I gave all that stuff away. So I left with nothing, like a little bag or something. I was leaving the jail, and there was a lady leaving at the exact same time. They literally let us out of jail at the exact same time. They didn't open the door once, close it, and then let her out. They let us out at the same time. They opened the door, let her out, and I'd never met this woman before in my life. Never seen her, heard of her, nothing. And they let you out of jail, and the instructions were, listen, go talk. Now I was on probation for the misdemeanor terroristic phone call or whatever the case was. Right. So I had to say, okay, we're gonna let you out of jail, but you're on bond release, basically. It was a signature bond, but you're on bond release is what they call it. So it's basically super supervised probation. I had to go back every week and on Wednesday and take a drug and alcohol test. This time I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't on drugs anymore. I wasn't planning on it either. I'm like, man, that's it for that. I'm done. I feel better. Oh man, what a relief. I felt great. I never felt better in my life than I remember when I was leaving, I thought, how am I going to get home? How am I going to get back to my house? I'm like, I don't care. I'll walk. I don't care. It's like, what, 30 miles. It's not that far, 50 miles, not even 50 probably. I could have walked home. And that's what I was going to do. I'm like, I'll just walk home. I'll just hitchhike home. I'll get back to, And so I get out and they let me out with this woman. And she asked me, oh, wow, how long have you been in jail? I'm like, man, I was in there for 8 months. Wow, that's a long time. How are you going to get home? And I'm like, I don't know. She goes, well, do you need anything? You want some cigarettes or something? And I was like, I don't. I'm not going to smoke. And she goes, well, do you need a ride? I'm like, yeah, I do. I need a ride to a phone. Can you give me a ride to down to the Walmart or something so I can just use the telephone? Yeah, sure. And she goes, I got to go see my probation officer. Me too. That's where I'm going. So we get in the probation office and we're just talking, simply talking about our plans after look, she's going to take me down to the dollar store or Walmart. And the head of the probation officer hears this whole thing going on. And a condition of the bonds that you don't talk to any other felons or have anything to do with any of it. Right. But this woman's a felon, and I'm in the probation officer was talking to her, and she starts trying to get me rearrested right there for talking to this lady. She's throwing a fit. This woman is throwing a fucking fit in a probation office. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What is going on? What are you talking about? I've been in jail for 8 months. What are you talking about? She said, who's your probation officer? I was like, Laura. I knew her real well. And she runs and gets her and tells her the whole story, like rats me out. He's out there talking to felons. I'm like, what? I can't do it. She has to go to the probation office too. There's nothing I can do about it. And so I'm in the middle of an argument right after I get out of jail. I was all in a good mood. I'm in the middle of this giant argument. And my sister walks in the door. I haven't even been out of jail for 45 minutes. My sister walks in the door. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Damn. And she goes, what's going on here? I said, nothing. I'm like, hold on, let me talk to Laura. So I talked to my probation officer. I'm like, man, listen, I told her the whole story. She goes, who cares? What's the big deal? What's the problem? And I said, I don't know. It's not my problem. It's just your boss's problem. And so she goes, don't worry about it. Just don't talk to each other. You're not supposed to talk to each other. You got a ride. Just go home. I'm like, okay, see ya. But my sister's mad. She thinks that I'm still, I hadn't learned anything. I've been in jail for 8 months. I hadn't learned nothing. I get out and I'm in an argument with my probation officer, So she's mad, doesn't talk to me all the way home, takes me home, drops me off at my mom's house. But I'm happy. I'm like, God, oh man, I'm out of jail. I had all these plans, when you got 8 months to think about what you're going to do. Man, what am I going to do when I get out of jail? And I think what I'm going to do, I think what I better do when I get out of jail is not do anything. I don't think I'm going to talk to anybody or contact anybody, or I think I'm going to just get my head together, take a month or so, exercise and get my shit straight, figure out what I want to do. And so I did that. I didn't tell you that last time. I waited a month, I think. I was like, I'm going to give it a month, before I really do anything. I don't really care. But it changes the whole way you think once you've been to jail. You know how it is, especially you're not as afraid anymore of what you were afraid of before. You know what I mean? You already lost everything. There's no way to go any further down. Who cares? In a way, it was a good experience. I learned a lot from it, and it wasn't the whole time in jail wasn't exactly miserable. It was horrible at first, but by the end, I'm laughing and playing chess and having. It wasn't that. I had some great times in jail. It was it was few and far between, but it was fun at times, especially
Right.
when the pod would get full of fun people and we're playing chess every day, all day long. And it wasn't that bad by the end. I wasn't sick anymore. So anyways, I get out and I decide I'm not going to do anything for a month, but I still got to fight this effing case. And I got to get back and forth to court every week. And that went on for a long time. So I'm in the middle of a case and my lawyer eventually contacts me. Hey man, what are we going to do about this case? And I'm like, well, I think by this, the misdemeanor stuff was all done. Well, that's all done. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. But he goes, well, what are we going to do about the felonies? What's your idea? What do you think? And I said, let's just, how much can you get me some more time? I just need some more time. And he says, well, how much more time? It's been a long time. It's already been almost a year since you were in jail for almost. Y'all know how much more time I can get you. I'm like, yes, you can. Yeah, you can do it. You can do anything, man. And he says, okay, I know I can get it. I know I can get a couple more extensions. I'm like, man, let's just drag it out. Let's just see how long we can drag it out. I mean, it could be years. We could drag it out for years, right? He's like, not for years,
Yeah.
but a year is plenty. But dude, he kept getting extension after extension after extension, and he's like, what's it gonna matter? Why do you? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Everybody calms down. The witnesses is the main thing. Everybody calms down. Everybody's not so mad anymore. They're not so excited about being witnesses after they see that I'm not insane anymore. You know what I mean? And they're gonna want me. They're gonna change their mind about this. About pursuing this case, because it really did depend on the witnesses and
the witnesses. Absolutely right.
Yes, and I'm related to the witnesses, and this 8 months had gone by. They don't want to go to court and deal with this BS. You know what I mean? They just don't want to do it. And so I'm telling him this, and he's like, yeah. And I say, can you? Is it ethical for you to get a hold of him, for you to talk to him? And I think he said he could, but he didn't know if it was a good idea or something. I'm like, why don't you just fill it out? See what they're gonna, see how they feel about this. And I don't know if he did or not, but he kept extending it, right? Well, he just kept extending it. And, months and months go by. I remember I was all back to normal, working, everything was fine. And now I'm really scared of getting a felony. Now it was even worse. I really didn't want the felony bad. And he calls me one day and he says, hey man, I've been thinking about that case. And, I listen to all them I listen to all your jail calls, for that a piece of their evidence was on my jail phone calls. Let me just put it that way. I was talking to somebody and they thought they didn't need the witnesses anymore. They were going to use the jail calls. That was their main piece of evidence. That was that they had. Even if the witnesses weren't there, the jail phone calls were going to get me convicted of it. And so he was trying to find a way around that. And he calls me and he says, I think I found a way around that one. And he said, there's like 80 people on your phone. Did you know that? And I said, well, yeah, I knew it. I've been selling my phone time for soups and whatever. You know how you do in jail. They want to talk on the phone, and you give them a soup, and they give you a soup or whatever they got, and you give them a few minutes. They can call her wife or girlfriend or whatever. So there's a bunch of people on the phone, bunch of people. And he goes, I don't think they're gonna.
I was gonna say, I don't know if everybody understands. You only get like how many minutes do you get in there? 300?
What total?
Yeah, per month.
Oh no, there was no limit. It was limited, unlimited. It was how much you could afford. You can talk forever. Yeah, you can talk as much as you want. But it was expensive. It's like 50 cents a minute or some ridiculous amount of money. I think I spent $1,000 on the phone in only 8 months. I know it was like $1,000. So, it's more when you're in jail. It's more important to talk on the phone than it is to eat, really.
Right. So there's all these. All these people using your phone.
Yes, all these people using my phone. And he says, I don't think they're going to want to go through all the trouble to figure out who's you. I think I can kick up some dust about that. And he didn't say he thought he could beat the case with it. He said, I think I can get extensions based on that, because if they have to go back and try to figure out who's who on the phone, I know it's going to take them a long time, and I know it's expensive or whatever. And I know that we can drag this out for quite a while based on that. I'm like, man, that's fantastic, dude. That's good. That's a great idea, man. Do that. And he says, okay, I'll do it. And then he does it. And man, I don't even think a month went by, and he calls me back and he goes, oh man, listen to this. He filed a motion about the phone calls or something. He goes, they're just done with the whole thing. They're sick of it. They're ready to, I got you I think I had to plead guilty to another misdemeanor charge or something. Maybe not though. I can't remember. They might have dropped it, just outright dropped it. But they dropped all the felony stuff down to less than at least a misdemeanor. The only thing I know that I've been convicted of for real is the worst thing I've ever been convicted of is telephone harassment. That's the worst thing on the thing. So I think they just outright dropped the whole entire thing. They just said forget it. But I was still on probation for a while after that, so I'm not sure how, but he did get it dropped. You know what I mean? And so that's what I mean by not all lawyers are like that. This guy would say he was going to get me out of. I knew I wasn't going to go to prison once I got the guy on my case. Nobody's going to prison with him on their case. It didn't seem like it. Now I'm sure people have, but he's beaten some major cases. The guy's really a good guy. He lives right outside of town. He's got a wife and kids, and his wife's a prosecutor. And he's just worried about his reputation. I think maybe because he had his own practice too. Since he has his own practice, he wants to look like he's winning cases, I suppose. That's why he did it. But he did. He worked as hard as he could, and he beat them all. So that's why I get so irritated about the people saying that about. And there are other people on cases that other people that I've heard of like that. I had another guy that was I got a traffic ticket in this town I live in, and I didn't want to pay it, and I was mad about the ticket. And it'd been a long time, and I mean a long time. I'd been fighting this stupid ticket case. I just didn't want to pay it, so I keep going back and I keep fighting, and this judge goes, "That's it, I've had it. You're going to jail." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't think that was going to happen." And he says, "Well, he couldn't sentence me to jail because I didn't have a lawyer." And he's like, so he had to appoint me a lawyer. He's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to appoint you a lawyer, and then I'm going to put you in jail. I'm like, okay, well, that'll give me at least 30 days or whatever until then I'll straighten it out. What I'll do is I'll get the other lawyer, wait till the last minute, and then pay the fines. I'm not going to jail over a stupid traffic ticket. But so I called the lawyer on this case, and he goes, he called me on the phone, and he goes, Mr. Bicklemeyer, what the hell's going on out there? And I said, what are you talking about? Who's that? He tells me his name, and he goes, what's going on? This judge calling me, he's all pissed off about. And I said, yeah, fuck him. And he goes, yeah, fuck him. You ain't going to jail over shit. Fuck that guy. Who does he think he is? He's going off about, you know what I mean? His name was, I could say his name. His name was Sanchez. I think it was his last name, Sanchez. And I said, yeah, that's right. Fuck him. And he goes, you ain't going to jail, and you ain't paying them fines either. They don't have any evidence. Blah, 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 So I go back to court with that guy, and he starts kicking up dust about this case, and I'm laughing because he can't. By this time, the judge can't put me in jail for something that he come up with, And we're fighting this case. It went on for years. A traffic ticket case, man. It was like 4 or 5 traffic tickets. So it went on for a year or two, man, a long time. And right in the middle of us fighting this stupid traffic ticket case, the guy died. The guy
your
died.
Lawyer died?
Yes, my lawyer died. And I'm like, oh my God, now what? Now what am I going to do? He was a fighter too, man. This guy was willing to sacrifice his own life, man. He was ready to jump in front of bullets for me, dude, over a traffic ticket. He hated the judge. He was going on about how bad he hated this judge in Tonganoxie. And so, but he died. So he was one of the last ones. All the other ones, and the one I hired. Now listen to this story about that. So here's what happened with that, the woman, okay? Come to find out, John, when he found out that I hired that woman, that's when I knew that it kind of motivated him. He was sort of I think he was offended by that, or not offended, but like, oh man, you should have gave me that money. I could have,
right,
And he goes,
that.
And he said, and I know her really well. It was his boss. It was his old boss or I think it was either his boss or he was her boss when he was a prosecutor, and he knew her real well and did not like her and didn't like the law firm that she worked for. Sorry about that. He didn't like them. For whatever reason, the law firm, when I got out of jail, I think I told you, I called him and told him what was happening. I talked to her boss, and he said, what's going, he was interested. He was like, what's going on? What are you so upset about? What happened in that case? And I said, he listened to the whole thing. It took like 2 hours too. I explained it to him, and he goes, he said, wow, that's really something. That who's your lawyer? And I said, John Bryant. And he goes, oh, well, that's good. That's good that happened. And I said, yeah, it's really good. It is, isn't it? Why did your lawyer come in there and not do that? He's like, I really don't know, but here's what I do know. She was there to get you out of jail, and she was there to not get you convicted of a felony. And I said, yeah, well, that's not what she did. She did not do that. And she certainly, she wouldn't even ask for bond. I told him the whole story, and he said, yeah, well, if you can beat that case, if John beats that case and you come out of it without a felony, I'll give you your money back. I said, well, okay, it's not my money anyways. You have to give it back to my sister, but yeah, that's the deal. I'll do, because I think he is going to beat the case for one. I think he can. And I certainly know this. He got me out of jail in 3 days. Okay. And this idiot couldn't get me out of jail. We paid all that, or my sister paid all that money to this woman who couldn't get me out of jail. Who wouldn't even try, wouldn't even ask for bond. He didn't believe it. Her boss didn't believe that she did that. And my sister told me that when she hired, after I get out of jail, I start finding out the whole story. And she said, yeah, when I called that law firm, they said, hey, we got just the person for that case. She used to be a prosecutor in that county. She knows everybody in that county, blah, 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 blah. She can do anything, and it turns out, I think really what happened was that she was very connected to that county. She knew John. John and her had worked together or something. Like I said, she was his boss or he was her boss. And I think the prosecutor, she talked to this lawyer and was like, no, I don't think you understand this case. He's an asshole and all this. And I don't think you should let him do this and do that. I think they just, I think the prosecutor talked her out of it is what I think. I think that's what, and I think they made a personal agreement. And then I also think, now I asked my sister this later. I said, did you do that? I think maybe when she hired this lawyer, she might have said something like this. Listen, here's the case. My brother's in jail and he's facing a felony. He doesn't want to take it, but I think I just want him out of jail. Just get him out of jail. He's better now. He sounds better. Let's just get him out of jail. Do whatever you can. She might have said that. You know what I mean? So it's maybe not fair to come down on this woman that hard because maybe that's what, but she,
maybe
my sister hired her, but yeah, maybe. But that's it. She works for me. And right. I had that argument with the woman personally. I said, she might have hired you and she might have said something or whatever she said. But the fact is you do work for me. You she's not in the case, and I appreciate everything she did, but she's not a part of this case. Yeah. She acted like she was going to fight. She was going to take it to trial. She took notes for hours. She was going to just fight tooth and nail to beat this and then wouldn't ask for bail. It was the most ridiculous thing. I tried to get the court transcripts just to show you how ridiculous it was. Like the prosecutor asking for the judge to throw out the not guilty plea. I mean, who does that? Who has the nerve to stand up there in front of a judge to say that? And for my lawyer not to object and for the judge not to say how ridiculous that was. He did say he wasn't going to go along with it, but he didn't admonish the lawyer or anything for asking for something that ridiculous, So anyway, I found out a bunch of stuff about that later. And then John, I remember, I kept talking to him after this case. We got along real well, and he likes to play chess, and we play chess on our phones all the time. And so I'm always talking to him, asking him, just being friends with him, and so over the years, I got to find out a bunch of stuff about this. And it was funny, right before you called me, a couple days before that, he goes, man, you know what? You should write that story down about all that stupid shit you did to get me on that case. That was a pretty good move. I said, yeah, it is funny. It's interesting, but I don't know if anybody really cared. Then like 2 days later, and I'm like, wow, that's weird. That's a weird coincidence that, I mean, it was a pretty great tactic that worked out really well. But it really wasn't totally my idea. There were people in jail who were doing a similar thing. But what they would do was just fire their lawyer and just shoot from the hip. They didn't really have a plan. They would just continue. There were guys in jail, man, who I'm sure you've talked about this on. I remember there was this guy was in jail with, his name was Turbo. And he was in my cell, and you get to know him. And I said, so what are you gonna do? What's your case all about? Dude, he only had like a year and a half or two backup time. Like if worst case scenario, if he fucks up as bad as he can, he's going to go do 2 years. That's the worst thing that can happen. Right. But the best thing that can happen is he could just be on probation and just walk it down on probation. Nope. This ain't the only guy I met like this. He said, nope, I'm not doing that. What I do is I get out and I don't even report to the probation officer. I'm just on the run right from the word go. And I'm on the run from the minute I get out of jail until they catch me again, which could be 2 or 3 years from now. And then I do another 3 months. And I just keep doing that until my time's done. Now, and numerous people were doing that. I'm like, that's ridiculous, man. You want to be, I couldn't drive down the road with a suspended driver's license. I'd be so scared. I don't know how you did that all that time with worried about, weren't you looking over your shoulder?
No. I mean, keep in mind, you can pull, I got tickets when I was on.
Yeah, you said you went to driving school and everything.
Yeah. I mean, they'd pull me over and I'd say, here's my driver's license. Here. And, of course, it's not my driver's license. It's a driver's license in the name of some.
Yeah, they don't know. Sure. Right.
But still, I mean, it's a real valid driver's license.
Yeah. Yes. I could see that, but I would still be nervous. Now, I've always wondered about your case too. What if they'd have got your fingerprints? Because now they can do that in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, but
they can get your.
Have you ever had a traffic stop where they did your fingerprints?
No, but what if you got booked or something?
I mean,
they would have done your fingerprints there.
I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I don't, I always have a driver's license, full coverage insurance. I mean, I don't get arrested. I'm not the kind of guy that drives around.
You're not out stealing from Walmart. That's your career. Like people, you know what I mean?
I'm not driving around in a stolen car with a broken taillight and a body in the trunk. Yeah. I'm an idiot. If I get pulled over for a traffic ticket and I'm like, yeah, here's my driver's license. No problem. I'm not.
Man, dude, they did. I got some serious questions about that too. And I watch your podcast and I watch a lot of them. And I got some serious questions about first of all, about the thing about the federal what they call trial tax, whatever that guy on his channel talks about, and you guys have said it too. I've heard you say it. I think even maybe that
federal what?
Okay, listen. They call it the trial tax. Like if you take a case to trial, then you'll get sentenced to the entire amount of time, and that basically that the government's punishing you for not going to trial. Right?
Well, but what they're saying is no, we're just giving you the statutory max. We were giving you a break for not forcing us to go to trial.
Exactly.
If you go to trial and lose, then you get what you should have gotten.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I said that to the prison consulting guy who, he just went off about how that's not the case. I'm like, yes, it is. It is the case that they're giving you a break for not going to trial. They're not taxing you for going to trial. That's ridiculous. That's a lie. And I kept saying in his comments, I'm like, stop telling you want to be this Mr. Honest consulting guy. And I hope you air this part of it so he sees it, the idiot. And I know you know him because you had his boss on one of your podcasts. You had his partner. Okay. I think his last name is Santos, the guy's partner, the guy's,
yes.
You guys, you know what I'm talking about? That's the guy. Okay. So
I get his partner, but okay. Yeah.
Yes. He has a guy who they're in business together or something. It's like and that's who I argue with that about. He's just dug his heels in on that one. He's not giving in at all. I'm like, but you're lying, dude. You're lying about that. It's not the case at all. And it's not the case that public defenders are all bad people. It's the case is really that if you need a public defender, the odds are that you're a shitty defendant who has a horrible record and you don't have any money. Who doesn't have enough money to hire their own lawyer? Junkies and criminals, man. People that steal and lie and cheat, and they got records and they got cases that are unbeatable. You know what I mean? Now, if you have an unbeatable case, I don't care if it's not like O.J. Simpson. That's not the case. That does not happen. I mean, that happened to him because it was a fluke, but really that wasn't that was a political thing. Not even, it was it wasn't even like his lawyers did such a great job. It was just that it was in the media. It was a circus. The whole thing was a circus. But generally, that's not the case. People that need public defenders are lunatics. They're and they have enough evidence. And what's the lawyer supposed to do? They're really, their job is to get you the least amount of time they can get you. It's not really to beat the case. I don't think that's their objective, and nor should it be. The case should be that they're trying to minimize your sentence. And if they're trying to give you a plea, that's what they're doing. They're trying to minimize your sentence. They can't take. People talk about going to trial, but you don't really want to do that. Especially in the state case, you don't want to. If they got mountains of evidence against you, and you have it in your head that if you have an expensive lawyer, you're going to win. That's not the case. It's just not. They got too much evidence. You're not going to win, whether it's whatever the case is.
Right.
So not all the public defenders are all that bad. You hear people talk about that all the time, but they exaggerate it, I think. I think it's grossly exaggerated about lawyers. Mostly.
I mean, your public defenders didn't sound that great, except for John.
That's right, John. But that's true. But keep in mind, the woman I wanted the trial, but she did win it. She did go through with it and do it. And then, and the other people, they weren't trying to fight, but they weren't trying to minimize the sentence, I guess, by, the one guy was saying he could get me out of jail if I just pled guilty to, it would have to be a felony, but he had it lessened. I mean, yes, granted, he wasn't working that hard. Right. But he didn't have a whole lot to work with either. He didn't have the kinds of things to work with. I don't think that the other guy did, that John did. You know what I mean? I don't think, and they certainly weren't motivated. I think John has some kind of an issue. I've asked him many times, but there's only so much you can say. I've asked him what his problem was with the judge. I thought the judge in my case was really fair throughout the entire thing, and this whole thing took years. It took 2 or 3 years to go through. And I've seen that judge 50 times, and he was fair. He was not unreasonable. I didn't think in any. I've never been sentenced to a day in jail. I've done almost a year of time, but I've never been sentenced. He never sentenced me to jail. He never, I didn't think he was all bad at the guy, but this dude did not like the guy, and he didn't want to lose in his courtroom. And I think I don't know what motivated him versus what motivated the other people, because I think they also had their own firms. Surely they do. You can't make a living.
Yeah, well, they're oh god, what do they call them? JCA lawyers or something like JC. I forget. Somebody will tell me. They're basically, they're not public defenders. They're assigned the case.
Yes, that's right.
And they get.
They all have to do that. In fact, in order to be licensed in the state of Kansas, I think you have to do some of that. Every lawyer, no matter who they are, if they're licensed to practice in that court, they have to do X amount of time as a public defender.
Get paid.
Yeah, they get paid.
Yeah,
they get paid, and
that's
like
what pro bono work.
Sure. Right. I even told John when I got out, I was so grateful. I was like, well, I could give you some money. I could do something that, I could repay you somehow. But he said, nah, he wasn't going to, he could have, if he just said, hey man, you owe me $5,000. I'd have said, okay, I'll work something out. I'll pay you $5,000. I don't care.
He can't accept any money. He
can't, but
you could hire him for another case and overpay.
Now he went off and became a judge, but he had another case, dude. Listen to this, where it is a case in Kansas where this guy killed this girl that I was really good friends with in high school. He killed her mom. He murdered her. It was, in my opinion, it was first degree murder. Well, John was on this guy's case, and so throughout the whole case, he can't say much about it. He can't talk. He can't give you any details about it. But he was acting like he was going to beat this case. I'm like, dude, there's no fucking way. I've seen some of the evidence. There's no way you're beating that case.
Right.
Well, he did pretty much wind up. Listen, that guy got out of jail on time served. I'll tell you that. And John was his lawyer in the middle of the case, and then he got promoted to being a judge. But I think John had the whole case worked out before that. And then he just took, because I asked him, I'm like, man, what happened? So you got promoted and now you can't be the guy's lawyer. I imagine he's upset about that. And he said, yeah, but he's got another lawyer. And we all sat down and figured out what we were going to do. And he did get the guy out of jail. He walked out of Leavenworth County jail. But no, listen, he walked out with time served. Imagine that I think it started as first degree murder, then it went to second degree murder. And then John's idea, I think, was to get the guy off on manslaughter and time served, second degree manslaughter or something. And they did that. The guy walked, but he did 4.5 or 5 years in Leavenworth County jail, in the jail where
it sucks. That's the worst.
Dude, listen, that's horrific. I think what happened was, they were like, dude, that's enough. 5 years in jail, that's like 50 in prison, I would imagine. At least I've heard people talk about prison. Everybody in jail was like, they couldn't wait to get to prison.
Yeah.
Everybody, man, so they could have some freedom and so forth.
People were constantly, man, I just want to get sentenced to go to prison. It was like,
yeah.
God, I would think you would want to stay away from prison. And they were like, bro, are you nuts? Listen,
exactly right.
They were like, let me explain something. They were like, I'm going to hit the fucking compound. I'm going to have an ice cream within a couple of hours. I'm going to have chips. I'm going to have coffee.
Shoes.
I'm going to be able to walk. I'm going to have shoes. I'm going to be able to walk the compound. I'm going to have a radio that works, an MP3 player. I'm going to, it was just like, are you joking? And they're like, yeah. I'll be able to play racquetball by tomorrow. And you were like, that's
Well,
insane.
here's the thing. They would all bitch about the fact that they had to go to what's called RDU. I don't know what it stands for, but they have to go to. You must have went there too. So they have to see what
R&D.
level of what's it called, R&D.
Oh no, you're talking about going through the processing center. That's a state thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be state. Well, they didn't. None of them like that because they had to be in a cell with another guy for 30 days without leaving
Right.
or whatever.
They send them there and they categorize them, and then
yes,
they decide
categorized.
what.
That's right.
Right. See,
That's
the
right.
federal system, that's all done by the probation officer and the BOP. Like they automatically do it. So as soon as you're,
that part's over by the time you get sentenced.
By the time you get sentenced, you get a pre-sentence report, and when you're sentenced, they send that to, Grand Prairie, and they automatically calculate your level and what prison you're going to. And then they give you that assignment, and you sit in the marshal's holdover. So you might get sentenced on a Monday, and then by Friday, you might be on a bus. Typically, it takes a week or two. So you might sit in the same place you were before. You're in the marshal's holdover. You get sentenced. You go in on a Monday. You get sentenced. And then let's say within a week and a half, you're on a bus headed to your prison. Period.
Yeah. Like speaking of that, I've heard of people talking about, and this guy that I was talking about, I was arguing with about the trial tax deal, the feds. He was talking about how people turn themselves in. I'm like, yeah, that is true. They turn themselves in. They're in the prison they were going to go to anyways. They know where to go. They send some of them go straight to camps and whatever.
Yeah, like the federal system. That's what always killed me, is that you would, like, I remember one time this guy showed up for it's like 4 o'clock count, right? Like they got to get him there before 4 o'clock count. So he ends up being in like he's a white guy. He was a doctor, pulmonary specialist, and
speaking of that, yeah, go ahead.
He walks into the cell, whatever it was, right down from me. And so afterward, he like comes out and you see looking around, like you can tell he's green as fuck. And he walks in, he's looking around, and he's like, well, what's going on now? And I said, they're going to call chow in a minute. They'll open the door, and then we'll all go to chow. So where's that? I said, just follow everybody. And we went and we ate, and I showed him go through the, how you do it and everything. Well, like afterwards we went and we walked the track. We're walking the track. And as we're walking the track, he's like, I forget what he got, 6 years or 8 years or something. And as we're walking the track, he says, yeah, I know, man. Like this morning I was at Panera. We were eating at Panera, and I'm like, Panera bread? And he goes, yeah. And I went, you turned yourself in? Like, you got an 8-year sentence and you turned yourself in? Yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, I've been out for like the last 4 months.
You're thinking about what you could have done, and you'd have been gone. You'd have been in Australia by that time.
Fuck, bro. I'm not turning myself in to go to prison for 8 years. No.
Yeah. Which brings me to a real serious question. Now, listen, I don't want to offend you, and I'm not trying to offend you at all. Trust me. Okay. And I understand you did 13 years in prison, which is fucking serious shit. But and you talk all the time about how bad that was when you got sentenced, how bad, and I can kind of imagine how horrible that must have been, especially with your mom being sick or whatever. And but now let me ask you, what would have been an appropriate sentence for you, do you think? Honestly, what would have made you stop doing that?
Well,
what would it have taken for you to stop?
The 13 years did it. Like the 26 years and the 13 that I did it. But
yeah, but you got sentenced. Listen, you got sentenced to 26 years, man. You weren't in. You got sentenced to 26 years, and you thought you were going to do that time. You thought you were doing that time. Yeah. And now from what happened with your lawyer, and what was his name again?
Frank Amadeo.
Yeah, Amadeo. Yeah, that guy's not. Anyway, you didn't know that though when you got sentenced. So I imagine when you got sentenced to that 26 years and the time that you did between there and the time that you knew that you got your sentence cut in half, you thought you were going to do that in 26 years. And in that length of time, you must have decided that, hey, that's enough. I'm not doing it anymore. It's not worth it. I'm not going to risk it again. But had you got sentenced to 13 years right out of the gate and only done 7,
right? So I think
that stopped you from doing that.
I think an appropriate sentence for me at that time, based on the fact that I had 4 indictments in 4 different jurisdictions. I'd stole in excess of $15 million personally, not with co-defendant, just personally.
Yeah, your own.
Right. I was on the run. So I think all of those things, all the enhancements, everything, I think if they'd given me.
I don't mean that, though. I don't mean man, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm asking you personally, what you think was a sentence that would.
I'm giving you the answer.
Yeah, but you're telling me with enhancements and all that. I'm not. I don't.
No, but you have.
I don't mean what you think they. I mean, you personally. What would it
I'm saying, if I was the judge and I was sitting there, what would I have given me? Is what you're asking.
No, I'm asking you this: what sentence would it have taken for you to have been serious enough about it to not ever do it again? That's what all they wanted you to do, was to stop it. To stop doing the bank fraud stuff.
It's about punishment. But okay, so I would have said 10 years. Here's why.
Okay.
Because the judge already in his mind, when he says 10 years, he already knows, he's looking at 8.5. Not 5. Not in the federal system. You're fucking kidding me. In the federal system,
13 on a 26. But you got left. Okay, go ahead.
No. So the judge would have said 10 years. He's going to get 8.5 because he's getting a year and a half off for good time. He's going to get a year off for the drug program. He's at 7.5. He's probably going to get close to a year in a halfway house. So he's going to do about 6.5 to 7 years if he behaves himself.
Yeah, no problems.
And that would have been enough for me to go, I can't do it anymore. To be honest, if he had given me probably 5 or 6, if he'd given me 5 years, you have to understand, if he'd given me 5 years, mentally, I would have been out in 2 years at that point, maybe even a year. If I'd gone straight in the drug program, I would have been out in probably a year. So I'd have done 2 years on 5, and I've seen people do that.
Was it worth it? Would that have stopped? Would that have changed your mind about that?
No, I don't think so. I think at that point I would have gotten out. I'd have said, fuck that. If that's all,
that's right.
2 years for what I did. Now I know what to do. Like I was just too fucking cocky. The truth is, 10 years would have placed me in a spot where
you didn't think it was worth risking it.
It would have been because I'd have been by that point I would have been in my mid 40s.
Yep.
I'd have been like listen, by the time you get to
you'd have been thinking about it though, eh? You'd have been thinking about that.
I don't know. By the time
because listen, you got so close to getting away with that shit, dude. That's the most amazing part of that whole entire story. Yeah.
But the difference is this. The difference is you get to your 40s, your body starts to hurt.
Yeah.
You start to realize I can't do this much longer.
I know exactly what you mean. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
You start thinking, I mean, if you're smart, you start thinking physically and mentally, where am I going to be at 60? And how, and I need to prepare myself to be in a position where when I get to 65, and if I can, maybe I can go to 66 or 67, but when I retire, I need to have a place where that retirement check or that Social Security covers my bills.
Yeah.
I have to have a paid off house.
Cars.
Right. Cars. Like you start doing that and you go, I probably don't have enough time. Now, granted, everybody's like, oh, you're smart. You can do this. You can do that. I can't. But they don't ever calculate the risk. The risk of me going out and buying 3 houses, renovating those houses and selling those houses. They go, oh, yeah, you buy it, you renovate it, you sell it. You're going to make $40,000 on each fucking. Listen, you've watched too much fucking HGTV.
I know what you're saying. Listen, I know what you're saying. But happen. And listen now, here's another thing. A question I've always wondered about your story, too, is why didn't you have some kind of plan for going to prison? Why didn't you stash a couple $1 million in some safety deposit box where just like Bosiak and that? What happened there?
I'm arrogant and I'm cocky and I'm fucking narcissistic and I just thought I was too fucking smart and they weren't going to catch me because they're all fucking idiots. And
you thought you were that smart that you didn't even need a second fucking plan to do it?
I got caught in a bank, handcuffed.
I know. I said it's awesome story too.
And convinced them that they had the wrong person. I've been in a bank where I've had fucking bank managers looking at me, practically telling me, I know this is a fraud.
The guy
And they
said that. The guy said he didn't feel comfortable with the guy that said, I don't feel comfortable with this whole time. Well, I wonder if he's ever seen your podcast and been like, I told you.
Sure.
That was him. I told you that was the guy.
The Secret Service showed up and told him who I was. A week later, the Secret Service showed up.
Yeah.
Like, look, you just
can't. I mean, after you got out. So, okay. So there's that. That was, I've always wondered that about what you thought about the time. And then here's another thing that I have a beef with everybody on that channel. Well, not everybody on the channel, but a lot of the people on that channel. This is what really drives me nuts. People think for some reason that the government or the state even, or the federal government has some sort of responsibility to rehabilitate people. Why do they think,
They're not even trying.
Yeah, but why should they try? I mean, try convincing a bunch of people that pay them bills that I mean, imagine spending all that millions of dollars on prisons and then people in prison saying that you owe them some sort of rehabilitation. Well, it's just not the case. The government, the people in the United States just don't owe people in prison any kind of rehabilitation. First of all, they were never rehabilitated to begin with. That's the problem. That's why they're in prison. Well, everybody else got habituated to their environment. They didn't. The government doesn't owe them people. I'm not saying it's not maybe economically a good idea to try to keep their recidivism down to a minimum. But first of all, that's ridiculous. It doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. You can't. That's so ridiculous. What kind of program are you going to put people through that's going to lower that? It's never happened. They've tried this throughout history in prison and with prison reform and stuff.
The guys that go to the RDAP program have a lower recidivism rate than anybody.
Who says?
I mean,
who says that?
The RDAP program. The government statistics, the Bureau of Prisons. I don't know where.
Okay.
I'm not sure where you're getting your statistics.
Well, I'm not. I don't have them.
Right.
I'm just saying.
You don't have them, but they do. No. They're not dumping the money into that program because they're not being able to show.
They're dumping the money in that. Here's why they're dumping the money in that program is because it sounds good. They don't have to have any kind of statistic that says anything. What they think is they got a bunch of liberal politicians who are going to pay for it because they believe in rehabilitation. That has nothing to do with the statistics or whether or not the statistics are real. They're probably not real. I would dare anybody to dig up stats that says that there's a program in prison that really reduces the amount of people that come back. I mean, I've never seen anything like that.
I mean, I can tell you right now, the RDAP program does. But anyway,
how do you know that though?
Well, I mean, I know. Okay. Well, first of all, what you're basing your opinion on, what you're basing your opinion on, is just your opinion.
It's not.
What I'm basing my opinion on is
what they. Opinion. That's not just an opinion.
Well, then where are your statistics? That there's no program out there.
They're saying.
Who's they?
People in prison who come on the show and they act like the society owes them some rehabilitation, and that if they had it, there would be a lower recidivism. However you say that word, what's it called?
Right. Recidivism, right?
And that the government should spend more money on rehabilitation and stuff because it for any reason it lowers that. Well, no, I don't think there's any program that would do that.
Right.
Not a prison program. I'm not saying that people can't get better and not go. I don't want anybody going back to prison. I don't hate people that are in prison or nothing like that. I'm just saying you can't go to prison expecting society to repair that for you.
What they expect is what they expect and don't expect is irrelevant in my opinion. What I'm saying is that if there were you're saying because they feel entitled to get it.
Yes, they feel entitled to it.
Okay, so if they went in and they were appreciative to have it, would you then offer them the program?
I'm not saying I would or wouldn't offer. What I'm saying is they don't have a right to expect to be.
I don't really know anybody. I don't really know anybody that thinks they have a right to expect. What they think is it would be better for society.
Okay, yeah, I'll agree with that. Okay, that's even better because that's even better that they say that because I don't think it's true. One and two, they say, "Dang it!" Now you changed my train of thought about what I was going to say about that. They want it to happen. They think it'd be better, and they want their prison time to be easier for one, because they think for some reason if a program would make it less likely that you come back to prison. But I don't think so. There could be an argument made, and I'm not making this argument. I'm just saying that people do make this argument that no, prison should be less enjoyable and less, it's harder to deal with. And that way, you wouldn't be saying things like, "It would have taken a 10-year sentence for me to stop." You might be saying, "Dude, I wouldn't risk it for 6 fucking months." You know what I mean? That's an argument that other side has about their attitudes towards prisons, and people also hate, for some reason, they hate the private prison system. First of all, I don't think anybody knows what it is. I don't really even understand how that works, and they don't either. And why would you hate the private prison? The government can't do anything right. Why would you disagree with the public or private people having something to do with the prisons? Because they think, not you, I'm saying they think that it's somehow related to the amount of people that go to prison. So I've heard it a million times. They think the private prison system is incentivizing the court system to send people to prison for slave labor, is what they think. Well, slave labor, my ass, you could never regain the amount of money it costs you to imprison somebody from their labor in prison. You're not going to get your money back. The state's not getting their money back because you made a couple of shelves it costs them. How much do you think it costs to put somebody in prison for a year? How much do you think that really costs? I mean, do you have any idea? I don't. I bet you it's over $100,000 a year to keep one guy locked. It's got to be.
No,
when you're talking about paying the mortgage on the building and the whole court system, legal system, it's in millions.
Right. Do you want to know?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's about $36,000 to keep an inmate in prison. Now that's what the Bureau of Prisons is paid to keep them there.
Right.
Now,
okay.
What does it
paid?
cost?
What do you mean? What did you say? Paid? Did you say paid?
For every inmate, the budget requires about $35,000 to $36,000 per inmate that they receive every year.
So if you take all the money that they spend, let's take the federal government.
Wait a second, I'm not done.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. How much are they reimbursed per year per inmate? About 30. Let's round it down to 35,000.
Okay.
So that's one thing. The second thing is, now, how much does it cost society to have an inmate in prison? It costs about $55,000 to $55,000. Now, here's why. Because when you remove that person, you remove them from the tax base.
Yes, I get that.
Right. So you cost everything across the board. You cost.
Most of these people are not actually productive citizens that are paying their taxes. They're getting welfare checks and everything else. They're a burden on the entire system. Insurance. And I don't mean to be listen, I'm just saying this is the argument that's being made in order to make this our justice system what it is. How it's
I hear you.
I'm not making this argument for myself sake. I'm saying that this is the argument on the other side of the fence, and that's why the prison system is set up the way it is, because it's so easily chopped down when you have people out there saying what I'm saying right here, which is that these are not people who are out paying their taxes. They're a burden on society to begin with, and the best way to relieve the society of the burden that they're putting on us, the cheapest way, is to put them in prison, because now they're only going to cost us $50. They're out here costing us hundreds of millions of dollars. Because even if you rip off a bank, or even though it's just a bank, well, it's not really just a bank. I mean, they have a board of directors, and it's a corporation that has investors and people that lose money somewhere down the line. Even if it's an insurance company, if you steal from an insurance company, the industry I work in, people do that all the time, and they say it's not stealing. Well, it's not really stealing, because if we rip off the insurance company, they rip us off all the time. It's really just a game of cat and mouse, and it's justified that we do this.
That's a stupid argument, but I think
it is a stupid argument. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying about if you really wanted to figure out how much it costs to keep somebody in prison, you have to figure out how much money they spend on the entire prison system, and then divide it by the number of inmates that are in the prison, which is, I don't think it would come out to $54,000. I mean, I just don't think it would be that low.
It's about $36,000.
What about all the money for example, is this included in that figure? This is just what I'd say if I was in a congressional hearing. Is this included? Is the what we pay for the whole entire legal system, the police force, all the security that we have to hire to keep these people, they're costing society so much money. And what what they have to pay to defend them in court? They have to pay for that. Is that
So-
included in the amount that it costs
So-
you to put somebody in prison?
So what I know, the 55,000, let's round it to 55,000. The 55,000 that it costs just in general society is you take the 35,000 minus the 55, right? So you got about 20,000 is what's typically paid in that those people aren't paying in taxes. And that's property taxes. That's, that's Social Security, that's Medicare, that's employment taxes. That's all those taxes that they could be out there earning. Now, if you're saying, no, these
But
people
they're
don't
not
earn that,
out there earning.
right? They're not. They're in prison. So you
No,
have to
but even
remove that.
before they were in prison.
Well, they were committing crimes.
there's
We're
an argument
assuming- The
right.
argument is if they were productive citizens making an average,
Okay.
that's what they would be contributing to society. So the goal is to get them to not come back to prison. Now you're saying, hey, let's make prison so horrible they don't want to go.
No,
Okay.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this. I'm saying that's an argument that they have. I'm not making that argument. I'm not saying that we should change it to be like that. I'm saying it's a damn good argument to be had there.
It's really not.
Well, it is. That's what's keeping it the way it is.
you.
That's the other force that's balancing out this force. You got what you're saying on one side and what I'm saying on the other, and that's really what's balancing out what's going on with the legal system. Because there are people who are law-abiding citizens who are sick of paying for it. They don't want to pay for it, and they know.
Listen, bro, I'm with you. You know what? If it was up to me, I get it. Fuck these public schools. Those kids don't need to know how to read. They can work in factories. And you know what? As a matter of fact, I'll give me a gun. I'll police myself. We don't need the police. I hear you. If
That's called.
do you see what I'm saying? Like where you're going is so, fuck it. Let's have 3 tiers. You can pay your way out. You can put somebody in jail for 5 years, hard labor, or you can just execute them. Like I hear all of the arguments.
That's not what I think, man. You got that all twisted up. It's not the same thing as saying we're going to get rid of the public schools. And listen, these are adults. These aren't. No, it's not. It's not the same thing.
The Constitution doesn't. Guess what? The Constitution doesn't say anywhere that we have to educate the poor. We have to pay for education.
Is it a good idea for society? Is what you're saying? That yes, it is a good.
So, is it a good idea for society to educate the poor? Which is public schools.
I have no idea. The United States was no. I don't. Listen. That's an argument that lots of people. You think the public schools are doing some kind of fantastic job with people?
I think,
and then at the same time,
I think it's better than not educating.
Well, you think they go? What makes you think they wouldn't be educated? Just because of the public, there's plenty. You send your kid to private school. There's plenty of educational opportunities in the world besides public school.
You think that somebody that works at McDonald's can afford to send their child to a private school?
No, but if there were no public schools, there would probably be more affordable private schools. I'll say that. What I'm arguing is the libertarians' argument about this whole case, and they do have a big argument about it. Have you ever heard of Ayn Rand, the woman that's okay?
I've read Fountainhead.
Yeah, the one before it. Well, that's what I'm saying. That is a good argument. That's the argument. Yeah, that sums it up right there. What I'm saying. I'm not saying it. I'm saying that there are people who say that, and they have. Now, one time in 1995, my dad came to me and said, "Hey, I got a friend of mine, this lady that works at the store, the grocery store. They had my uncle had this grocery store, and this lady worked there, and her husband worked at the Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary." Okay. And he said, this guy's willing to give us a private tour of that prison. And all we got to do is read this book. He said he would give us this tour, but we have to read this book about the prison. It's called The High House. It's about Leavenworth County and Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. Read the book. And then the next Wednesday, we'll go there. But he wants us to read the book so we know who we're looking at and what's going on in this prison. So I do. I read the book. It's a famous book too. You got to read it. It's a fantastic book. It's all about that prison. And I remember, I'll never forget this. We get there and he's explaining there's this giant building, and he says that used to be the furniture factory. They used to build furniture there. Now, I was thinking, well, that's a great idea. Why don't we have the prisoners building furniture and making license plates and everything else? And this is what he said, because for every piece of furniture that they build in that prison, you're taking that away from the private industry. The private people who build furniture don't want us having those people build furniture because we're putting us in a position to underbid them. That's unfair, completely unfair to the private people who are out there building furniture honestly. You know what I'm saying? So that changed my whole attitude about it. Right then and there when he said that, I remember walking around in that prison and thinking, man, wow, I would have never dreamed that there was an argument to be made in that direction, that it was detrimental to society in any way at all to have prisoners doing some kind of productive activity like building furniture or making license plates or whatever. Well, there is detriment to it, you know. And I'm not saying that they ought to make, but I heard you use this word also, draconian. Our sentencing is draconian, right? Well, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. I don't know if the sentences, if they were reduced, I mean, I just don't see how you could finagle the system to make it any better, even if you did have programs. I just don't know. I don't know if those numbers are right. I don't know if people in RDAP go back to prison less often, but I've read enough about the prison industry and and I'm sure you have too, though. There's been waves in this country of prison reform and prison. It'll go all one way for a while. You know, they used to put people on chain gangs, you know, and then people come along and that's ridiculous. Let's try to reform them. And somebody will get in office. Some governor gets in office and they put in this giant reform program, kind of like in Shawshank Redemption, sort of, when they were ripping off, you know, the corruption there. Right. Well, that's another thing, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying that I never hear that argument made on this channel, and I'm just bringing it up. I don't hate criminals. I mean, I'm sure I've deserved a little bit of prison time for it. If I got caught for everything I did, you know, I did some pretty stupid shit, and I could have very well easily went to prison too. But I would have never gone to prison and claimed that there was that society owed me some kind of reform program, or
I'm not sure who
I think they ought to do this. You know what I mean? I
don't know on my program who said that.
Who said what? Oh, about well, there's a theme running through it. It's a theme running through and I love the show. Don't get me wrong. I try to watch all yours. I like it. I tell people about it all the time. You know, I'm an advocate for that show. And it's all their attitudes about it. I think even Bozak was talking about.
I think
he's the smartest one on the.
Okay, I think the attitude might be they should, but not that they're.
Yeah, but they all have the same argument, and it's all it's almost a. The argument is so. I'm like, man, come on, dude. Like here's an argument that people make all the time too. Listen to this. They say. This drives me nuts. Why don't they make drugs legal and then we could just tax them to death and then it'll solve all the problems like they do with alcohol? Why don't we do like we do with alcohol? Do you think the taxes on alcohol equal anywhere near the amount of money it costs society to take care of the problems that alcohol creates with domestic violence and car wrecks on the highway and stuff? They ain't recouping their cost. Okay, they could put a 50% tax on alcohol and it wouldn't. I don't think. Now, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I would guess that they're not getting their money back from the destruction. Nothing is more destructive in the world than alcohol. They're not recouping their money. You know, the police force spends 50% of their time, 90% of their time on domestic disputes caused by alcohol. I have read them stats. I have read stats like that. Jordan Peterson is an expert in, I'm sure you know who he is. He's an expert. By the way, this is another thing, dude. You said, I'm watching that show all the time. I wish I could argue. I wish I could argue with them. Well, Andrew Tate, you compared Andrew Tate to Jordan Peterson. And it was exactly what you said. Now you said, in a way, what Andrew Tate's doing in his message is basically what Jordan Peterson is saying. That's what you said, right? Yeah. It was not even fucking close. If you really listen to what Peterson says, it ain't even in the fucking neighborhood of what Tate says.
I think 90% of their message overlaps. There is 10% difference.
And 1% of how it overlaps. And here's the 1% that.
What's that?
In one way does it overlap, and this is since you said that, I couldn't believe you said it anyways, because I thought I was like, that's pretty fucking insightful that he said that. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, damn, man, he really knows. Well, then I really started looking into it. I'm like, no, dude, here's the only thing they have in common. Men should be more have a little bit more confidence. That's it. That's as far as that goes. The similarity between Tate and Peterson. Yes. Tate's a pimp.
Look, they both say they both talk about men doing what?
Being more confident.
being men.
That's it.
No. Behaving like men. They both talk about how
Having the confidence to be a man and behave like a man and act like one.
Be chivalrous. Be.
Oh no, I don't think Tate says anything about chivalry, bro. I don't think that's part of his fucking.
Here's the thing. I think you've been watching the TikToks they get. If you've ever watched a full episode on him,
yes, I've watched it. I think I agree with most of what he says actually, but he is not a good guy.
Well, I think the difference is, well, wait a minute. First of all, he didn't have to be a good guy. You don't have to be a good guy.
Yeah, but if you say you are, that's
no. You don't have to be a good guy. You're telling me this. Are you telling me that if you're telling me that if a multiple murderer sat here and told me you should be polite, you should read more, you should be educated, you should go to college, are you telling me that everything he's saying is wrong because he happened to have killed 3 people?
No, you're right.
So it's the message, not the messenger.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's a fair argument. I get it. But yeah. And when you said it, I thought that's pretty good. I'm surprised he drew that conclusion. Not that I think you're stupid or anything, but I did see that coming. I thought, wow, that's pretty good.
You sat down and you wrote out all of the things that they say that are similar. I'll bet you'd come up with 100 of them, and I'll bet you 90 of them would overlap.
Okay. I when you said it, I knew immediately that there was a little bit of truth to it. So but then I started, maybe the reason I changed my attitude about it was because I looked into a little bit more about, at first I thought, you know who Candace Owens is, right? She was an advocate of his. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty big deal. But, and then the whole case about the that he was involved in was supposed to be totally unwarranted and total bullshit is what she made it sound like. But it's not. There was some relevancy to the kidnapping situation, how he was doing it. You know what I mean? There was I don't know exactly what it was, but I remember watching it and feeling that it was a little bit more relevant than I had been led to believe it was.
It's what's called, it's called a lover boy scam.
It's deeper than that. Because he was actually when they said it about you, I thought it's extremely unfair. First of all, I hated that they were saying you were taking advantage of single women, and that's ridiculous. They were taking advantage of you. Exactly. If anything, they were riding on your back.
That's what the press does.
Yes.
And if you don't look into it, then
I did look into the Tate situation. Is what I'm saying is I did look into that. And I first of all, he's not. I don't think he's a good guy at all. His brother, maybe. He's intelligent to a degree. But I don't know. I think
what bothers me is that I disagree with his delivery, but I agree with about
that's 90%. The most successful thing about it is his delivery. That's the one thing he has going for him.
That's I think 90% of the message. Listen, I think 90% of he and Jordan Peterson say about the same thing. Only Tate's message. I think Tate is so overbearing. The way he says things is that it becomes lost, and so
like what you were saying about the guy in California that does the workout stuff. You're always laughing about Wes Watson.
Right,
dude. Listen,
I think 90% of what Wes Watson says,
same thing, right,
is absolutely spot on. But when you're screaming and hollering and yelling and calling people bitches and punks and talking about slapping people, like, I'm sorry, we're done. I can't listen to you anymore.
Yeah, right. And then, listen, I looked into this so hard. I did your everyday YouTube, Google, whatever about him, trying to find out if he really was in prison. If he wasn't, there's all these detractors out there, but they got zero evidence, dude. I've never seen one piece of paper or proof or anything that says he really wasn't in the prison system like he says he is.
I was contacted by a guy who's a prison guard who actually told me that Big Hurt. Do you know what dry snitching is?
I get the concept of it.
You're basically snitching on somebody, but you're not getting anything for it. You're just telling on them.
Oh, that's dry snitching?
Yeah, dry snitching is when you're not getting anything. There's no benefit for you. So
that's bitch snitching, really, is what that is.
The guards will even say that, like, bro, you're dry snitching. Like you're telling me something and you're going to get nothing for this. I don't know what you're doing right now. And like sex offenders are big on doing that. But I
bet the slimy, greasy. Bet they are.
This guard who was apparently, he said he was in a California state prison. He said that Big Herc on multiple occasions dry snitched on other inmates, like talking about, hey, there's going to be
Are you talking about Big Herc or West? You're talking about West
Big Herc.
Okay.
Not Wes Watson.
Okay.
I that's why I just changed that. It wasn't.
Yeah, you did.
It wasn't Wes Watson. It was Big Herc. But he had all these things. He wrote me a whole thing and was like this. And he's like, bro, you need to do an episode on this because this is what happened.
Maybe you should.
Well, and what I told him was, okay, great, you're a CO. Then get me the cop outs, get me the reports. Or I said, tell me what institutions he was at and give me the reports, and I'll do a Freedom of Information Act. I don't have to mention your name. I said, but help me out. I can't just take your word for it. Unless you want to come on the program and you want to tell me this from your mouth.
He didn't have the guts to do that, I bet.
He said, oh, I'll get you the information. I sent him like two emails.
See, there's nothing to it then. There's absolutely nothing there. I mean, it's
right. So to me, I'll tell you that conversation. People can hear that conversation, but I'm telling you right now, I got no proof that that's true. That may have just been some fan who's just mouthing off. That doesn't mean it's true at all.
No, not at all. Just like another thing you said on the program, I think it was you that said these people that talk all this shit about sex offenders. Well, when they get out, there's a sex offender list, and they don't go out chasing these people down.
Oh, yeah.
That's just something they talk about in jail. And I'll tell you what else what it used to make me sick about these punks in jail is you want to talk all this trash on a sex offender, but when he gets here, you don't really want to face the guy. You want everybody else to get on the guy's back so you can extort him. You ain't gonna walk up to that guy and do nothing. You don't have the guts to walk up to him and really face the music, because he might hit you, he might stab you. You don't know, but you ain't doing it. And that's just the case. You might say you're gonna.
There was an SO one time, and the guy was like a Marine. So he's an SO and he's a Marine. Listen, he knocked out 2 or 3 dudes that mouthed off to him. So it's like, yeah, he is an SO, but he's also a Marine.
Yeah.
Like, so here were guys, there are these hard ass guys walking around like, and they'll make a comment and he'll be like, hey man, you need to watch it. No, you need to watch it. Boom. He just knock him out. Guy drops on the ground. Dudes are like, leave that motherfucker alone.
That's right. If they're going to pay any kind of a price, that's the case.
I thought he couldn't walk the yard. I thought that dude.
I thought he had to have paperwork.
Yeah. That dude did whatever he wanted to do, because after you knock 3 guys out, all these hard ass guys don't want to. They're in a soft low. They don't want to go anywhere. They've been to the thin. They've been to the medium. Even people to another low.
The people in jail, it was the same thing. The way they talked all that stuff. I'm like, man, you're not going to do anything about it. Right.
So that's my whole thing. Guys will be like, oh, you should have this. You should listen. Stop. I'm not the guy that's going to walk around acting like I'm a badass. I'm not going to walk around talking shit about this show or that show or this guy or that. I'm not doing it. I want to make my time as easy as possible. If nobody's bothering me, I will bother no one. I want to make this easy. It's bad enough that I'm fucking here.
That's right.
So I can't walk around being like, oh, that dude over there is a snitch. Oh, fuck him. We need to check his paper. Oh, that dude there, he's a cho. Well, we need to run him off the yard. Man, I'm not. What are you doing? Leave me alone.
Yeah, leave me out of it. Exactly. I don't want to be around. I'm not going to associate with them, but I'm not going to act like I'm going to run around and I'm the savior of the planet. I'm going to start.
Listen. The guys that talk like that, you get to a point where you're like, I don't even want to be around you now. Like you're such an asshole about this whole thing. You bring it up all the time. You run your mouth constantly.
It's like they're hiding something. It's overcompensating, and they're hiding the fact that they're a rat. Or that was a big deal in jail too. Everybody calling everybody a rat. I'm like, what are you talking about? Listen, I've never been around more rats and snitches in my life than I was in jail. Those are the rats and snitches. Okay, the honest people out in the world that wouldn't rat on somebody, they're not in prison, man. They're out making an honest living. They're honest and good people. They're not going to be in there like that. Shut up. Oh man, it made me sick. The people in there they're 90% of them made a career out of stealing from Walmart. I heard about that for 8 months. About all these, they thought they were so cool because they had all these ways to rip off Walmart. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, that's their career. And listen, I'll tell you a funny story about one of the best jail stories. This is an actual true story. There's a guy in there comes. You know how people come in, they're all innocent, right? Especially at first. Now they're going to fight their case, and their wives are going to stay with them, and all this stuff about their wives on the phone. They'll be screaming it. It would kill me to hear people screaming, "Bitch, you better put that money on my books," and all that. Man, oh my God, what an idiot. Well, they come in and they're innocent at first because they haven't been in there long, but they fall apart at the face to face jail, any jail time. I mean, these people just, I'm like, man, you'd think you'd be more used to this by now. You do this over and over again and you just fall to pieces when you get in here. It's ridiculous, man. Grow up. But they're all innocent at first. This one guy comes into jail. I've been there. I was having a good time by this time. I was playing chess every day. I was always sitting at the chess table. And this guy comes in, little short guy. I remember the guy, he was about, dude, he was noticeably short. Like if you seen him, what you said was that dude's a short dude, right? That's right. That's what you thought when you seen him. Okay, his name was Henry. You can look this up. It's in the Leavenworth County Times and the Leavenworth Journal. This is a true story. His name was Henry. I don't remember his last name, but he's in there for a while, and finally I can see he's lonely and whatever, and he wants to be a part of what's going on at our table. And so I invite him over. Hey man, what's going on? And what are you in here for? And I won't get into how it happened, but this was the story. He says, okay, well, here's what happened. I was at the liquor store one day in some town around here. It was a fairly big size town. It was like Overland Park or something. He says, and at the same time I was at the liquor store, it was right next to a pharmacy. And the pharmacy got robbed. And the guy that did it had on a hoodie, and he was short like me. He was real short. And so I'm walking out of the liquor store with my case of liquor, just minding my own business, walking home, and the cops pull up, and bam, I get charged with aggravated burglary of a pharmacy. I'm like, wow, that's a fantastic story, Henry. I said, how tall was the suspect? 5'2"? How many people in that neighborhood are 5'2" with a friggin' orange hoodie on, right? How many people? And he's like, I'm telling you, I didn't do it. I'm like, listen, man, no, I'm not going to say nothing to nobody. I don't care, but don't be acting like, you're all innocent about it. I said, there's got to be a reason why. They didn't just pick you up off the street. There's got to be more to it. Where were you going? I was going home. Who do you live with? My brother. Does your brother have a record? Yeah. For what? Robbing a pharmacy? Oh, robbing a pharmacy, eh? What do you know? Maybe that was part of the case. And he says, but I'm telling you, I didn't do it, and I can prove it. And I said, well, how are you going to prove it? He goes, I got a receipt from when I was buying the beer. That's at exactly the same time the pharmacy's getting robbed. It's exactly the same time. I was in the liquor store. I'm on a camera. I'm like, okay, Henry, well, let's see what they do with that. Let's see what your public defender does with this case, And he's confident that he didn't do it. And he almost has me believing this. I'm like, maybe, man, maybe, But then he goes to court and he comes back and he starts talking about taking a plea. And I'm like, bingo, he did it. Bingo. Now I know he did it, because why would you admit to taking a felony plea for something that big, something you didn't do? And he said, because I got to get back home. I'm going to lose my apartment and my car and everything else. I would just rather take the felony than go through what I'm going to have to go through. I'm like, dude, first of all, if you didn't do it, I would never say that you did, no matter what the circumstances are. He's like, man, you don't understand. My girlfriend, my wife, all this, Okay, Henry, whatever. Well, I got out of jail in the meantime, and I remember thinking, I'm keeping an eye on that case, because there was something. I thought by this time there was something to this case. Maybe he does. Maybe he did seem confident about it, but he was going to take a plea to what? Well, lo and behold, they found out that he did, in fact, have a receipt from the exact time that the liquor store was getting robbed, and they did have the wrong person. He had nothing to do with it. And he had been in prison for 2 months and was absolutely innocent of the crime. They had him on surveillance at a liquor store at the same time the pharmacy was getting robbed. It was him in the liquor store with the receipt. Yeah. I mean, that blew my mind. Then I started thinking, oh my God, man, maybe there are. I mean, Jesus, he almost pled to a case he had nothing to do with at all because of the pressure that they put on people. Now that's another thing that people talk about all the time, is the bond situation. And that's unfair, especially in a case like that. He had a bond he couldn't afford. And I don't know how high it was, but it was above his ability to pay it. And he was willing to take a plea. I mean, that's scary. Now, he should have, had he been out, he would have never been in that predicament. He would have never, ever considered taking that plea. And he didn't either. He didn't take the plea, and he sued in the article, if you ever got interested, you could look it up. There's an article, because that's how I found out about it. And he had a GoFundMe page and all this. He was trying to get out of the state or something. But nice. I think they even had a write-up. It was in the newspaper that it was a wrongful arrest situation, and he was trying. Now, they say you can sue him or whatever if it's
it's very difficult.
Could you do that? I
You
mean,
can. It's just very difficult. The burden of proof is really high. Like you have to basically prove that they knew or
did it
should have known.
maliciously?
Yeah, it's not
Like,
maliciously, but basically almost like, yeah, almost yes, like they did it on purpose. Like they knew or they at least should have known. And honestly, the way it's so difficult.
yeah,
And
and it sounded to me like
budgets.
he was a legitimate suspect, I thought. And
See?
yeah,
Exactly. He was a legitimate. Like, how are you going to win that? You were a legitimate. So what they should have done was they're going to say, look, they took him several weeks to even check the receipt. They never even checked his alibi. They immediately they're going to say all that. And
it took them a while to do it. In their defense, it did take you can't just do it overnight. You have to, they had to go find the receipt. Where was it? In the beer box that he had on? He must have had it on him when he got arrested.
Right.
That's because they did have it,
Right.
They
didn't find it. They probably just shrugged off his story immediately.
Yeah.
Said, he's fucking lying. But then again, they hear so many lies.
Yes. Yeah. I know. It's a twisted. This is what I say to people about the justice system all the time. If you think you know so much that you think you know, then tell me, think of one fucking thing that you think you could do to make it better, to make it a more fair. I'm talking about something legitimate that you could do to make it more fair. You want to lower the bail? Look at the places that tried to do that. Oregon and everything else that let people out with no bail. Look what that does. They put 99% of the people that go to jail are guilty. Right, they're guilty or of something, and when they're dangerous when they get out. If they get out, they're problems. You hear about people all the time being on bond and getting out and causing more problems. It happens all the time. The bond system, I don't think, could be corrected in any way. I don't think it could be any more fair than it is, except for maybe it should be more of, I don't know if that can be corrected or not. I don't really. I mean, it's people say that, but try drawing up a better legal system. Try it. I mean, it's just the fact that we have the presumption of innocence in this country that's a huge deal. They don't have that everywhere. You know what I mean? The state doesn't have to prove you're guilty. You're proving you're not in most places. You know what I mean? That's a good legal system foundation, at least, right? Don't you agree? Or no?
Yeah, to a degree.
Unless you got a better way, you think you could rig it up to where you could rig up a more fair system.
I think the problem is that you're just not going to find a perfect system.
That's exactly right. And I think this one is as perfect as it can get, is what I'm saying, really. Within reason, it is.
Yeah. I mean,
here's the other thing about you and your channel that I think about all the time is you call yourself a narcissist all the time, which I don't think that's true at all. Dude, I don't know why you would say that about yourself, that you're that narcissistic. Now, you're married, right? You talk about your mom all the time. Like, you'll be talking on these podcasts about how you'll start crying at the simple mention of some of these things. That's not narcissism, dude. That's the opposite of narcissism. People who are narcissistic ain't gonna cry over nothing except for their own ass being in jail. Where you're talking about your mom, you're talking about your wife, you're talking about. I don't think you're any more narcissistic than the next guy, and why you would think that, I don't know. I think that you were arrogant and thought that you were smarter than you. I don't know. You probably were smart as you think you are, but maybe, your luck ran out or whatever. And maybe you are smart and everything, but I don't see why you call yourself a narcissist all the time. You say that all the time to a point where I'm like, are you trying to talk yourself into it? I mean, why would you say that? I would never say I was a narcissist in any way. For one, I'm not. And I love to hear myself talk more as much as you do. You know what I mean? And you say that stuff about almost waiting for the guy to stop talking. Everybody does that, man. Everybody's doing that. It's not, that. I don't know. Tell me what makes you think you're a narcissist.
Well, I'm not saying I'm on the high. I'm at the high end of the spectrum.
But you think you're more so than a normal guy?
Absolutely. And I also think that there are only
maybe you are.
There are very few things that get me emotional. Maybe 4. Like there's there are 4 topics that I can even start to talk about and immediately well up. For the most part, I'm extremely harsh. I'm not. I'm just. It just doesn't affect me. Like it doesn't bother me. Where I see other people getting upset.
Gauging it. I mean, it's maybe a difficult way to gauge it. I mean, how are you comparing your emotions to mine? Really, it's a difficult thing to do. I mean, I might feel the same way you do about a lot of that stuff. Like, you don't.
Something
it's
tells
not
me
like you're acting as if you're a narcissist, huh?
I said
What'd
something tells me you do. Something tells me there are a lot of similarities. But yeah, I think
I just don't think you're a narcissist as bad as you do. Maybe
I'm not saying it's
I
bad.
think you're arrogant.
I think what happens is people immediately say that. And people say that and they think, oh my God, and they think the worst possible. It's like saying, well, I suffer from antisocial disorder, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal. Listen, that is a big deal. If you really, if that's real, that's like Jeffrey Dahmer type. That's what that really means.
It's really that you're probably 95% of the people in prison in some form are on that spectrum. Now they're not Jeffrey Dahmer, but let's face it.
Well, everybody's on that spectrum is what I'm saying. I think you're
to a degree, but let me
to a degree. That's exactly right. To a degree, just to say,
what you're saying is my welfare more important than society's? Yes.
Yeah, me too. I feel the same way.
Right, but a lot of people don't. Like a lot of people.
Who doesn't?
A lot of people.
Who doesn't think that? Liars.
I'm just saying, a lot of people would sit there and they don't do things that. Listen, there are people that work at food kitchens because they want to.
Nah.
That's insane.
There's not people that work. There's not people that work at food kitchens because out of the goodness of their heart. What they're doing is they're trying to impress their fucking neighbors. They're not. That's not true. They don't go to food kitchens to be a good person. They go to food kitchens to wave a flag of. And what you said about how listen, I say this all the time. I'd wipe out every man, woman, and child on this planet with a nuclear fucking bomb. If certain conditions apply, for this, if anything was going to happen to one of my kids, I'd say I'd rather murder the entire planet. I'll let them all go, bam, before I'd do that. I'd let them all. I don't know what keeps people from hitting the nuclear button. The only thing is, I mean, I say this all the time. If I had the nuclear. Yeah, I'd retaliate against the world. Maybe it's a bad day of the Chiefs game or something. I might get mad enough and hit the button. You know what I mean? If my family was okay and I was okay and I was in a bunker, it might start looking a little appealing. Hey, man, I like post-apocalyptic. You know what I mean? I might just, everybody I know is safe. Boom. You know what I mean? I don't know what keeps it from happening. I mean, now, so is that narcissistic to say? Yeah, well, everybody's, what isn't? What you said is people going to a food kitchen. Yeah. They're mainly lying. They're mainly liars. You're not lying. At least you don't lie about I
don't understand how you're saying that they're.
You think charitable people are charitable?
I think a lot of people aren't lying.
What?
I think a lot of people. I think those people aren't lying.
I think mainly they're lying, and they're doing it for. Listen, I live in a town it's crazy liberal. It's a place where there's a bunch of food kitchens and a bunch of BS like that. But I'll tell you what, they're not. Those people are not out there asking these people to come to their house or really doing anything but putting down on a piece of paper that they volunteer at the food kitchen. They don't care about the people eating the food at the food kitchen, man. I just don't believe it. There might be a 1 out of 50 people that do it, but that's not their motivation is to help the poor. They're not giving away 50 cents at the stoplight when the guy comes up to the window and asks for 50 cents. They're not giving that guy 50 cents, not out of their own money when nobody's looking. I don't believe in that there's so many good people in society. You gotta have an awful good outlook on that one. I think there are people like that, but yes, there are, Matt. There are good people in the world, no doubt. But 95% of the people who act like what you're saying, they're not. They're lying about it. Is what I'm saying. Just like most liberals, or I don't want to get into politics, but most people that are spouting that stuff are lying about it. They're just lying about like the way they want to help people in prisons, or we want to do this. No, you don't. You just want political clout or your neighbors to they're on the bandwagon. Is what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. You're wrong about that.
You have a very pessimistic outlook on society.
No, yeah. I'm just realistic. That's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. That's just the way it is. Do you know anybody that you honestly think is a really, really, really good person? I mean, how many people do you know that in your circle that you think are really good people? You might have surrounded yourself with good people. That's a testament to you.
I don't surround myself with good people.
At least
good people don't want anything to do with me. I would say my sister is, my sister.
Yeah, you never talk about your. That's funny. I talk about you never talk about your sister, who your family is, and I've wondered about that too. How come they didn't help you out? How come they weren't? Were they there for you? Were they stand beside you?
What were they going to do?
I mean, did they love you and care about you? And
I mean, they send me books. If I need money, they put money on my books. But I never asked like my sister, or brother, or anybody like that.
See, you know why? Because you love them. You didn't see right there. You didn't want to bother your brothers and sisters with that.
Periodically, my mother would put money on my books. My literary agent would put money on my books. But I very quickly, once I started writing, I always worked. I always had some kind of a hustle in there. And then once I started writing, I very quickly, it was like the second story I wrote, I optioned the story and I got a check for like $6,000 some odd dollars.
Yeah.
And then I got a check for like $3,500 for an advance. So in prison, you get 10 grand, you're rich.
Going a long way.
Right. Yeah.
Then by the way, I think your writing is underrated. Well, it's too bad that you have to be a writer in this day and age where nobody reads anything because they don't have to, because they'd be reading that Bozak story, dude. That's a good one. That's a true crime. That's good. And I'm a critic, dude, of writing. I can't stand bad writers. I know I've read thousands and thousands of books. Them are decent books, really. And especially the Bozak story. There's a part in that Bozak story, dude, that was really a masterpiece. I'll tell you. The part where you're explaining about how he slept in that room on there's a part in this book that you wrote, and I'm like, damn, that's fucking good.
I know what you're talking about. Good. Was it like it was on top of one of the building? Yes. It was like the little shack where they had the utility shed.
Yeah, the way you're explaining the part about that where the motors are running and that humming, and I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good shit. Yeah. That's about 50 steps below Steinbeck or something like that, but not 100. Steinbeck's good, man. Haven't you ever read Steinbeck?
I don't.
But your writing's pretty good, and it's even more blows me away that you had the will to do that. I always wished I could be a writer, but I just never had the guts and never put in the time and energy that it takes. That's a fucking huge thing. How many people in federal prison get a check for $10,000 for something they did in there? Well, that's a fucking miracle to me. I would have been too lazy to do it or too afraid I was going to fail at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the books weren't going to be good or something.
I'd already failed at pretty much everything else. I'd found myself in prison with 25 plus years. I mean,
yeah, I guess so. But that doesn't stop most people from not being afraid of failure.
I think they're just trying to pass the time by playing chess and walking the track and playing basketball, and that's what they're
going to pass the time. They're going to get out and do just what they did. My whole attitude in jail was, I'm going to use this time to the best of my whatever can benefit me. I'm doing it in any possible way, man. If I could, the only thing I could do really was exercise and get better physically and emotionally. That's because you don't have any programs in jail, but I started planning on what I was and wasn't going to do when I got out of jail. I'm not making that mistake again, and I'll never do this again. I love my wife. We get and we're still married, and our kids are great. My daughter.
You're still married?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I assumed you were remarried.
No.
So she's walking around. She's the woman walking around in the background periodically.
Yes, she was with me the whole time, and we went through our thing, But what happened was I quit being an idiot like that, and problem solved. I mean, I love her. I've been through for how long? We've been married for how long?
Married for 18 years.
Yeah, this is Kelly right there. She's great.
My heart goes out to you.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, she loved me.
Hey, he put up with me too.
Yeah, she ain't no saint, dude.
No,
she's no saint. And
that's proof the generosity of women never ceases to amaze me.
No, it was me, dude. It wasn't a lot of it was me. It was, hey, listen.
It was both.
It was my forgiveness and my willingness to say how it was all my fault, and not to hold a grudge, and it wasn't all her. It was me a little bit too. You know what I mean? And now it's funny. Once we got out of jail, listen, and how long did it take? It didn't take very long. I took that month off, and then I just went right back to work. Had an apartment, had a car, and everything else within 2 months. And then she moves back in, and our kids moved in with us, and that was
I
a
got
long
sober.
time ago. Yeah. I know. That's funny when you say, what? He said, I said, yeah, it's Kelly's. He's like,
Yeah.
what? The one walking back there's the same one.
Yeah.
I assumed that
I'm the
was
crazy
over.
lady.
No,
Oh.
no. And
Any
Because
sane
you were in the
person
middle of
would
a
assume it
divorce.
was over.
You were getting separated.
oh, yeah,
and
it was
you were
a
fighting
heated,
over the
but
kids.
listen, but it was
yeah.
because of mostly my drug fueled insanity that was causing the problem. It wasn't there before,
Right.
you know, and
Well, I have no
I
doubt
knew
it
once
was your fault.
you know, you're just not reasonable.
I have no doubt it was
Yeah,
your fault.
yes, okay, thank you.
You don't have to convince me. I spent
That,
2
you
hours.
see what I mean? It
I
was.
spent 2 hours, and I'm sure I only got a fraction of it.
Oh, dude, you don't even know. You think you're bad, man. You think shit about talking and stuff like you talk, man. I could go on and on and on and on arguing about prison systems, and at least you've read. I can't believe that you read those books I mentioned. You've read
Oh, nice.
a bunch of Ayn Rand. Well, you had all the years
Atlas.
to do it too. So
Yeah,
hey,
I
listen,
read
I was
Atlas
out
Shrugged.
in society doing it.
I read The Fountainhead, which listen, I read that book, and you could have shaved 300 pages off that book, and it would have been all right.
Oh, dude.
It was exhausting.
Listen, the one before it, the Atlas Shrugged one, you could have took half of the book,
Yeah, it was
threw it in
just
the
too much.
trash.
It's too much.
It was way too much. Now, some of the books that you wrote, what's that? What was it? What would you say would be another one that compares to the Bosiak story? I like the one about the lawyer.
Yeah,
think
I was going to
this
say
is insanity.
I really like the Frank Amadeo story, but I wrote a book about a guy named Marcus Shrinker, which is really good.
No, I think I read that one. Marcus Shrinker, the psychopath, idiot, lion bastard in the airplane.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you on the phone. I'm like, that book with that idiot. He gets out. I love the story. The best part is the way you not fucked him around in the story, but you wrote it the way you wanted to, and the idiot just goes along with it, thinking that you were just. That's a narcissist, bro. That's narcissist. He was so arrogant and narcissistic. He couldn't tell that you were powerful and dangerous. I'd have known right away. I'd have known from talking to you that, dude, this dude, no, you know, he's no idiot. I'd have known. I wouldn't have fucking trusted you with anything, you know, but he did because he didn't even, dude, he probably wouldn't have even remembered your name. He was so arrogant and such a lowlife. He didn't give you any credit at all. You know,
no, he was so used to people just blindly believing everything he said.
Was he really good looking or something? Because I can see you getting away with that if you're really good looking or something.
Yeah, I think he's a good looking guy. I think
yeah, that's part of
it. So,
and it was somewhat successful, right, for a time.
I mean, yeah, if you're just
he made it appear so.
If you're willing to blatantly lie to your customers, you can be really successful for.
Hey, who ain't, man? Who ain't?
So, did you ever see this TV series Dirty John?
Oh, yes.
So that guy really my wife and I watched that last week. We actually finished.
Which guy? Because there's more than one story in that series.
No,
totally
the
different.
main guy, John, whatever his name is, the main.
The guy that got killed for the woman, the wife, ex-wife killed him.
No, it wasn't the ex-wife. It was the
There's 4 or 5 different stories.
Okay, you're talking about the series. I'm talking about the original.
You're talking about the guy that was pretended to be a medical professional of some sort. Yes.
So, he really, really reminds me of Marcus Shrinker.
Really?
Yeah. Where he could blatantly look at you and be like, I can't believe she's behaving like that. I mean, it was so over the top. It was like he's one of those guys. You ever sit and this happens in prison a lot. You ever sit in prison and you're watching a TV show and something funny happens and everybody kind of laughs and you see one guy kind of look around and then he goes, and you understand that you don't really get what just happened.
Yes.
Like you're a complete
absolutely
psychopath. Like you can't
see the irony. Can't see the any kind of he
can't empathize at all.
Yes.
With the he doesn't. He's not able to see the humor in certain things. So he kind of fake laughs and fakes emotion. And so as a result, they're just kind of sometimes they're bad actors. Like you just he would and
rotten
that's
people.
Shrinker was.
That's a narcissist. That's a
Right.
narcissist right there.
No doubt Shrinker's a narcissist, but
Yeah, so when you say narcissist, I think of that guy, not you. I don't think of your. Now, here's what I think that you say that is narcissistic, though. That I've always wanted. Every time you say this, I'm like, I want to jump on the thing and start arguing with you. Well, when you say, or I don't even know if you say this, man, but you act like this. You act like I don't want to make you mad. I'm not. What I think you purposely, intentionally diminish the damage that the crime could have done. And I don't know the extent of what your crimes could have done, but when you say stuff about it was only a bunch of paper, man. I only signed a bunch of paper, Hey, look, I'm sure you know that.
Oh, I know it's more
it's
than
just
that.
like
But what I'm saying is like I didn't stab
hurt
someone.
anybody.
I didn't hurt him. I didn't kidnap someone.
But it did hurt people. It could have been some old lady's retirement or something.
Well, here's the difference is it's like when people say they get into a fight with their wife. A fight is physical. You got into an argument with your wife. Like
true.
I didn't physically harm anyone. Did I financially inconvenience people? Absolutely. Did I
devastate or financially devastate some people? Maybe.
Well, and that would be great if I didn't. And I hear you, but since I know exactly who lost money and how much money they lost.
No, you don't. You don't even have I'm sure you have no idea.
I absolutely do.
You know who's on the board of Bank of America?
The board? You think I crippled the board of Bank of America?
No, what I think is that the people that it affected is a chain that goes to the board and goes to the insurance company. None of the people right?
Bro.
I'm just saying, right? I mean, right?
Right. Yes.
Who lost money?
So, who lost money? Bank of America lost $2 million.
Bank of America is not a person. Bank of America is an institution. Bank of America is run by a board who lost money.
The board doesn't have a financial investment in Bank of America.
Yes, they do. That's why they're on the board. They're only on the board because it's their money in the bank.
It's owned by bank. It's owned by stockholders.
Okay, well then the stockholders. Okay. But
so you think Board of America, Bank of America, it's worth probably what, 4 billion, 8 billion, 12 billion?
So that's how you're going to justify it because they got enough money.
What I'm saying is that I don't think that anybody on the board or that owns stock in Bank of America or has an account with Bank of America, I don't think anybody couldn't buy even. I don't think I cost them even a Pepsi. I don't think I cost them a stick of gum.
I see what you're saying.
If you divide $2 million into the net worth of that company,
that's a good argument. You're saying that it was distributed amongst enough people that it was therefore nullified by the fact that it only did each person a little bit of damage. Not a whole lot of damage to one guy.
It did them. You couldn't even say it was 1 cent. If you do the calculation.
Yeah. But if you calculate in the cost of think about this. What do you think it costs Bank of America now to secure against people like you and stuff like that? That does start adding up, bro. When you start adding up how much you got to do to defend against guys and fraud, how much money do you think they spend on fraud prevention? You think that's relevant?
No.
You think that's relevant?
No. I don't think I changed not one policy by Bank of America because they lost so little money. And on top of that,
they probably wrote new laws, Matt, because of what you did. They probably wrote laws about it because it's such because of the damage that you're doing right now, even by talking about it. And nobody argues with you on your show either. Here's what I watch the people that they don't want to. And I don't want to offend you either, but the people usually don't. They're like, well, it's his show. I don't want to. And I get that. I do the same thing, but nobody's confronting you about the situation either. I haven't seen. Well, Big Herc, I think, did later, or did he do it on the show? Did he confront you at all on the show? Yes, he did.
He only thing he confronted me on.
He did go into a case about the ratting. He did have an argument for that you're right was a complete lie, albeit his argument about so what you're just gonna fuck the other, and you said, well, we're all criminals. That's true. I get it. I take your side on that case.
Yeah. His whole thing was you find out that your next door neighbor's doing dirt, and he fucking you go and just tell on. It was Bob. I think his name was Bob. I think it was Bill. Right? Because you're just gonna tell on Bob
some racial slur.
I was like, is Bob a fucking criminal? Like, yeah, I'm gonna tell on Bob. Fuck Bob. And he was just like, you're just gonna do that? Yeah.
right in his house. Like, he must have been shocking.
Oh, he was. Listen, he was furious. He's up walking around. When they had to change the cartridges, he gets up, he walks around.
You're in his hotel room alone with this guy, too. You're lucky he didn't take you in the bathroom and get busy.
Two thugs. But here's the thing. But I also know that I feel fairly confident, not 100% confident, but fairly confident he's not going to do anything. What I think he's more upset about is the fact that I before I went on, I told him, "Do you know my story?" And
yeah,
he said,
yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, I already watched your story. I know the whole thing.
You had to know something about it.
And I said,
"Go ahead."
Okay, well then yeah, absolutely, I'll meet you. Yeah, it's going to be a great episode. I guess it is.
It was a good one. It was a good one too. Now, is his show still around? Yeah, I don't even know if is it still rolling?
Yeah, I think he's probably got like 700,000 subscribers. He puts out videos a couple times a week. He's living off of that show.
Yeah.
What else is he gonna do?
Yeah, that's that. What else did you do too? That's another question I had. Is what would you have done? What was your plan when you weren't planning on coming out and starting a YouTube channel and stuff, right?
No.
What was your plan?
I mean, so I didn't really. So I had written all these stories, and I knew I wanted to try and market them. But I knew that wasn't going to probably pay my bills.
It would have if we didn't live in an age where people can get it for free. I think it would. It was good enough that you could.
Well, I thought I wanted to start a true crime podcast, but I didn't know what that meant exactly. I only knew because I'd read some articles about it. So I knew somehow I wanted to do something. So I was
something like, on the level of this podcast, something like that.
No, I thought something more heavily edited.
I like the unedited part of this.
Yeah,
I like the fact that it's not really.
Yeah, I like that back and forth. But it would have been more. It would have been much more. There would have been a higher production value. They do the music. They do the whole. You take a story and you break it into like 8 parts, and that's a season.
Well, you take you take Netflix 7.5 compared to your podcast. That's the difference right there.
Yeah, well,
it's exactly the difference. The difference between 7.5 and documentary. Well, yeah, but it's highly edited, highly,
right.
High production value. It's an extremely good show. The thing about him was that I liked him. Everybody, didn't you say most people like him? He's a very likable guy, and I could see why those other criminals were trusting. They trusted him. He didn't seem as fearless as they said he was, although it did seem like it when you heard about his story. He was pretty fearless about the way he went about his crimes. But what really made me not like him was the part where he stole that money from that girl in the Bible, the money on that whole story. He told it in front of Congress too. He told that story in front of the fucking Congress. He told them that story. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, man, you talk about humiliating yourself, right? In a congressional hearing, he started telling them about how he ripped this woman off out of $100. I mean, I think that took a lot of guts.
One, it takes a lot of guts to say it, but two, I don't think it humiliated him. Do you see what I'm saying? You're assuming.
Yeah, I do hear what you're saying. Now that you say that, man, but wow. I didn't think that way.
Yeah, because to me, it's like when people will say, like with me, if I tell somebody, like I never shy away from, I was in prison, this happened, I did this.
Me neither. Yeah, me neither. I don't
have a problem with that at all. Like, and if to me that person, they're offended, then they don't have to be a part of my life. I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Like, but if they look at me a certain kind of way, like, oh, you were this, you were that, that doesn't make me feel humiliation at all. It makes me real. It's just it helps me separate.
Okay.
You and I.
But what I'm saying is what he said had no real other. I thought it was a little bit of genuine humility is what I thought when he told the story in front of Congress. I thought it was real because he didn't stand to gain anything from telling that story. That was a humiliating story that I would have left out of my life story. Just like the story I told you about the tires that I did to that lady. I feel so bad about that if I ever see that woman again, I'll buy her new. I'd do it right now. If I found her, if she sees the show or anybody sees it, I'll buy the woman a new set of tires. You know what I mean? And it's embarrassing that I did it. And I'm embarrassed to even say I did it, but that's just to demonstrate, how crazy I was. That's not the only thing I did. One time, you'll appreciate this crime. I'm at work one day. I'm fairly broke, right? I'm looking out the window and there's a car parked in this fucking apartment complex. I'm like, man, the car's been there a long time and looks to me like it's broke down. The heads are laying right beside the car. I bet they can't wait to get that piece of shit out of there. I bet I could sell it. Why don't I just sell it? I sold the car. It wasn't even mine. It was across the street. I just called up a junk dealer. I said, hey man, I got this brown Malibu sitting in front of my apartment complex, driving me crazy. How much do you give me for it? It was like $350. They go, we'll give you $350. I said, well, come get it. When can you get it? They drove right out, picked it up, and hauled it off, and gave me the money, and that was. So I started thinking, man, I could sell a lot of other people's cars.
God,
I got no money in this. You know what I'm saying? But
this is all profit.
here's what I thought. Yes, it's all profit. Here's what I thought. How am I going to get caught? What's going to happen? How's this going to play out? Well, here's what could have happened. Somebody raises a stink about their car being gone. What are they going to do? Call the cops? Call the cops. Where's your car? If they even found it, this car is only worth $200 anyways. Keep in mind, I didn't sell a Maserati. I sold a beat down old brown Malibu with no wheels on it. You know what I mean? I knew they were just, the landlord was just probably just happy to get rid of the car. You know, another thing I did.
You're doing them a favor.
Yes, that's how I see it. See, that's true narcissism. Listen to another crime I pulled, Matt. This is a good one. One night, I'm out at the bar. This is when me and my wife were fairly recently married. And I'm out at the bar, and we're just, dude, it was like right before the 4th of July. It might have been the 4th of July. We're drinking. Everybody's getting drunk, just getting loaded in this bar. It was in Baser, Kansas. And I get so loaded, I wake up in the back seat of the person's car who drove me to the bar. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 or 5 a.m. Nobody's around. I'm completely alone. It's the only car in the parking lot. I'm passed out in the back seat of it. So I get up and I go, oh my God. I look at my phone or watch or whatever. And I'm like, my wife's going to shit. I got to get home. So I get out of the car. I start looking for the keys to the car that I'm in. No keys anywhere. Nothing. I'm like, oh shit. What am I going to, I got to get home right now. And I'm a good, like, I don't know, 12 miles away from home. Not too far. I look across the street and there's an auto repair shop. I'm like, bingo. I run across the highway, go to I know how these places operate. So I just look for the drop box. I'm like, I'll just get the keys from somebody who just dropped their car off. So, and I did. I got the keys to this car. This is great. I grabbed the keys to this car, and I have a whole handful of keys. So I start going around seeing which ones will start, which one has gas in it, which one will start. I come to this car. It was a white Chevy Corsica. Whoa, it fires right up. And I'm like, dude, it's nice. Thing's running good. Bam. I take off and just I haul ass home thinking my wife's going to be just furious, mad as hell. Who knows what she's going to do? The door's going to be locked, something. And so I haul ass home, and I had parked my bar at a bar that my uncle owned in this town I live in, right up the street from where I lived. And I thought, well, I'll just park this car at the police station so they know it's not stolen. I'll wipe it down, and I'll just walk up to my car, jump in my car, and just drive home. Right. So that's what I do. I drop the car off at the police station, wipe it all down. This is that ain't the best part of the story. I wipe it all down with Armor All, thinking, hey, can't get fingerprints off of Armor All. Wipe it all down. And then I leave it at the police station with the keys in the ignition so they can start it. And the car ran fine. I don't know why it was at the fucking repair shop. Maybe it was coming home. Maybe it was fixed already because it ran and drove great. Right. It was a white Chevy Corsica with a red interior. That's how much I remember. I get in my van, drive home. And I'm like, oh shit, worried all about I get in the house. She's just passed out cold. Doesn't even know I'm gone. Nor does she care, where I'm at. She didn't care. She was passed out, wouldn't have known for another 5 hours where I was, or would have sent out, she wouldn't even started looking for me for 10 hours. And so I start thinking, oh man, I hope I don't get caught for this car, but I didn't steal it. I just borrowed it anyways. Really, it was I legitimately borrowed the car. But the best part of it is this. I parked it at the police station, literally at the police station, because mainly it was convenient and I wanted to find the car. I didn't want to steal nobody's car. And it took about 3 days for these idiots to find it. Anyways, 3 days, man, for them people to find it. It was in the newspaper too. And I remember I saved the article for years because I thought it was funny. But here's the best part. The license plate was real recognizable, right? And every day I worked. Every day that car, I would pass it on my way to work, that exact car with that license plate. And I would pass the lady driving that car and think to myself, oh man, she has no idea that the idiot that stole her car is passing her right now and every other day on the highway. And what was it was a little thrill that I got out of this, just a little, just it's a sick little thrill that I got out of laughing about that. Well, criminals do that though. I've read about it. Criminals get this kick. They say like they look for suspects for arson in the audience. You know what I mean? They look for those because they're there to observe. They're getting the kick out of being guilty of the crime, or they're surrounded by, you know what I mean? People that don't know. And that was one case where I felt that exact feeling. And no, I hadn't hurt this lady, nor had I cost her anything. I would have put gas in the car, honest to God, if I had the opportunity to do it. If I wasn't scared to pull up to the gas pump, I would have put gas in the car before I dropped it off. But I had to get home. You know what I mean? I was scared. I didn't want to get busted. So that was the other night when I was talking to you, and I said, well, I'm not really a criminal. I think I said this. Yeah, I wasn't out running around committing crimes. Well, for the last week, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I was a little bit more of a criminal, than I really let myself believe. I was really telling myself, I'm not like those people. I'm not a criminal. I did all kinds of, whoever lost the Malibu was out a couple $100. That lady was, it wasn't harmless fun, but pretty close. I mean, I wasn't stealing anything. I didn't go out and steal for drugs. I was too scared to do. I mean, what was I going to do? I guess go into Walmart from what I hear and just load up a cart and just walk out the door. I guess you could do that. There was a guy in jail that said he did that so many times that every pawn shop within 50 miles was so full of CDs and PS4s and everything that they could, like Bozak in the story about you were telling about Bozak. I think it was in your story where he is saying, I think it might have been on a podcast where he's saying, look, you can only do that so many times. You can only, you got to start going further and further out with this, but boy, if there was one guy that could have got away with them crimes, that I was hoping, because didn't the book end to where he was on the run? That's how that book ended, right?
Yeah.
And man, how it was shattering to find out that wasn't the case, that he didn't just run off into the sunset. You know what I mean?
Got arrested.
Why'd you have to do that, man? I wish you just left that out of that whole story.
So
I could keep on believing that Boziak's out running around free. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I thought, was he was out, gone. I later found out.
And what about? I mean, this is just bullshit. But what about Zach? What? Where's he at? He's a great toast. Great guy.
I mean, he's,
is he around?
We got him to start a podcast. It's called Black Zach. He came up with a nickname. And I've tried to get him to do some
I would have called it black or something. I would have mixed them together somehow. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, he picked it. So
he picked it.
And I had him do his life story like in parts. And so he was fully monetized within 1 month. That's very difficult to do. So secondly, the channel started making money, a little bit of money, and all he has to do is interview one person. At the rate he was going, Colby and I were basically telling him, listen, if you just do one hour interview, at least an hour interview once a week, in 6 months from now, this channel will be making $1,000. So once a week, you have to just call someone up like this and talk to him for an hour. That's it.
Not so easy to do.
We'll do everything else, by the way.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And no, we'll do everything. That's all you gotta do. And you can use my StreamYard account. I'll pay for it, everything. But guess what? He just can't do it. He's only done a couple of them, and he's always got a reason he can't do it.
I get it. It's difficult thing to do.
Yeah,
it'd be difficult
I mean, but you have to think, I'm there yelling and screaming, and I'm at the point now where it's like, listen, because to me, look, 6 months from now, it's making 1,000, but in a year from now, it might be making 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that, it's like working a little side hustle, just a little thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it snowballs.
But here's the thing. It's not like, and this is the thing, like a lot of people want to start a podcast, but Zach doesn't seem to understand that, like, you've got an in with me.
Yeah, a big one. And
you've got an in with a lot of other podcasters that I can help you with. So you're not some guy who's starting a podcast who also works his insurance job and doesn't have any ability to do any connection with other podcasters. Like,
he's not naked. He's not naked. Yeah.
Right. I'm telling you, I can I could very quickly help excel your podcast. And he's so likable, it would probably blow up.
He's likable. He's very likable, and it would blow up because I'd listen to it.
He just,
Yeah, well, I can understand that completely, man. Because I tell you what, it's all the work that you got to go through. I mean, and listen, you got to really be scraping the bottom of the barrel to have me on this show. I mean, compared to the other shit, I mean, you're running out of content, bro. You know what I mean? You're good, because it's got to be hard.
Listen, I actually told my wife, I was like, she's like, well, what's his story? I said, honestly, he's just got a knucklehead story.
Yeah, it's just
but he's super entertaining and funny about the whole thing. And he laughs the whole time. I said, it's funny listening to him tell this story. She's like, well, what do you do? I said, we didn't really do anything. Said, he's basically just a drug addict that keeps getting arrested and keeps getting in trouble and keeps fighting with the police and fighting with the courts and fighting this whole thing. I said, but it's funny the way he tells the story.
Yeah, it was to me, it was funny too. After later on, whenever it was all said and done, I started thinking how funny it was, and like, man, that is funny that I made that shit work. There was a lot more to it too. Like one time I just refused to go to court, and the fact that I won is the best part. That it came out, dude. It could not have worked out any better. It's totally impossible. There's no better outcome that could have possibly came, except for, okay, maybe that. Oh, I walked away and there was no punishment whatsoever. But the only punishment there ever was a little bit of probation, by way of which I never violated it, never one time. And the whole time I was on probation, did I ever get convicted of violation? It wasn't that hard to do a bunch of probation. The jail time is the hardest part of it all. And even that was beneficial. I wouldn't trade that for anything. That saved my life, probably, honestly. Really. I mean, I was passing out on the highway, driving to work without my shoes on. I passed out at the stoplight, and the cops come up, and I woke up. Now, drug addicts will know this. They'll know. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I know. I've been there." Those drugs, what they do to you is, and you know a little bit about it. If you take them, what really is happening to you is this: you'll get in a situation where it's information overload. It will knock you out. It'll not, just like if somebody punched you and knocked you out. Sensory overload happens real quick. So you'll get in the car, and what happens in the car? Sensory overload. Bam, it knocks you out. And then you wake up, and there's nothing's moving. You start doing it again. Then you pass out. I mean, I've been pulled over numerous times, pulled out of the car, and I'm never drinking. And all they knew to look for was drinking. And they'd pull me over, yank me out of the car, start yelling at me. I had a cop, listen to this. He came to my mom's. This cop in this town knew me so well. I was driving him nuts with my little antics, running around doing stupid shit. Well, one day I legitimately went to the goddamn gas station, got $5 worth of gas. Now, who's going to steal $5 worth of gas? I filled my tank up by any reason. I wasn't stealing anything. I went inside, bought a pack of cigarettes, everything. It just did. I didn't steal anything. They didn't add the $5 to it, and I didn't catch it. It was like $20. I don't know. It was they turned the pump on, and I pumped my $5 worth of gas. I drove down to my mom's house, and I was watching TV or something, and about an hour later, not even an hour later, 30 minutes later, boom, 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 fucking cops pounding on the door, and I'm like, what the hell? What goes through your mind? Oh my God, is there warrants? I'm like, hey, there's nothing going on. I open the door, and he's like, God damn it, Mickelmeyer. This is the last time I've had it with you. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to get in that car right now, and you're going to drive up to Casey's, and I'm going to follow you, and you're going to pay him their goddamn. He's going off and screaming at me about it. And I said, hey man, okay. Look, I went in the store. I didn't have any. I don't want to hear it. I've heard it before. I don't want to talk about it. Get in your car right now. I said, okay, dude. So, I run out, I'm in my slippers or whatever, and I jump in my car, but that's happening to me. It's sensory. I'm passing out while this cop is behind me, following me to the gas station. And he just talked to me. He doesn't think I'm drunk or anything, right? He's not thinking this. So, but I can't deal with it. It's only a couple blocks, but I'm trying to drive, and I'm all over the road. But I get there, he's behind me. He walks me in the Casey's, and he's like, I got him. Get your money, whatever. And so I paid him, and I said, hey man, I'm sorry, and he's like, I had it, Mickelmeyer. That's enough. I don't want to see you again. And I'm telling you right now, I don't want to hear about you. I don't want to see you again. And The next time's gonna be a worse deal. And I said, okay, cool. And I'm walking back to the pump, and he gets in his car, dude. I swear to God, he sits in his car and he's getting ready to close the door, but he doesn't. He can't stop. He's got to say something else. So he opens up the door and he goes, by the way, you're the worst goddamn fucking driver I've ever seen in my life. It's ridiculous. Get your fucking head out of your ass. He didn't know I was high. He just thought I was a bad driver. It was funny, dude. You should have been there. The cop, oh my God, ranting and raving about me stealing $5 worth of gas, which I didn't even do. You know what I mean? That must have been in the time before I get kicked. I got 86 from Casey's, and get this, I go to jail 2 years later, man. 2 effing years later, I went to that gas station. I'm like, they would never recognize me in a million years. There's no way. I drive through this town all the time. I pull in there, and totally in good faith, I'm going to pump some gas and go pay for the gas. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking anything criminal at all. The reason I go to Casey's is because you can pump and then pay, right? So you can pump your gas and go get your business done. Well, I put the thing in there, and I hit and I call the lady up. I'm like, hey, can you turn the pump on? And she's like, no. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. Why not turn the pump on? She goes, I was told never to turn the pump on for you. And I said, oh, really? I said, turn the fucking pump on, or I'm calling the cops. Turn the pump on right now. Turn the pump on. And she turned it on. She turned it on. And she turned the pump on, dude. And I went in and paid for it. I couldn't believe it. She thought I was going to call the cops on her. What can I do? She could have just told me to fucking stick it. So I never went back. I think they shut that store down. But what a lowlife to get kicked out at Casey's, man. The 86 from Casey's. Do they have those in Florida?
No.
Well, let me tell you. Listen, they go out. And like you did with the recruiting of the homeless people to get the IDs, that's what they do to get employees. They go out and petition to get the worst people in the world to work in their store. They have to qualify. Look, are you on welfare? Do you have zero customer skills? You know what I mean? No. Do you hate customers? In fact, do you not want to sweep the floor? They're just the worst people, crackheads and junkies and everything else that work there. It's totally the opposite of. You have Quick Trips. Quick Trips there?
No, we have a racetrack, and
you have a good
Wawa.
station that everybody goes to. Like, there's one we have around here that's the most efficient, most unbelievable. They have freaking lawyers working. People that are you have to have a 750 credit score to get a job there. These are professional people. Really, they do. Your credit score has to be flawless. These people are so professional, and so the floors are spotless. Everything's perfect. Everything's being replaced. There's nothing missing ever. It's called Quick Trip, and they're all around this area. But Casey's is the opposite of that. They hire all these idiots, but the thing is, they got the best food. The pizza's phenomenal, and a bunch of other services that they have, like you could pump before you pay, shit like that. So they're around, and they specialize in being in small towns. So they're the only gas station other than little mom and pop shops that are in these small towns around here. Every small town had a Casey's before it had anything else, But their hiring practices are just. Oh my God, dude. I went round and around with that Casey's for years, and the manager knew me, and she kind of liked me. So she knew I wasn't a bad guy, but she eventually got fed up with the tire thing. She came to my house. They were coming to my house, dude. Somebody in the kitchen knew where I lived, and they were knocking on my door. And I'm like, what are you doing here? It's the Casey's manager with another employee. You need to get back up there and pay for this woman's tires. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. She says, hey, listen, we got you on camera. And I said, really? Because I'm pretty sure if you had me on camera, you'd be calling the cops. And the cops would be here, but they're not, and you are. So I don't think you have me on camera. And guess what else? I didn't do it. Oh, yeah, we're not buying that, And then so here's how they tried to get this. It's funny, they tried to get me. Eudora Police Department found out I had a felony warrant. So that's the first people that called me. The Eudora Police Department guy calls me. He says, hey, Bicklemeyer, they know me. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? Johnson or whatever his name is. He says, what happened with you up at Casey's? What are you talking about? I said, he goes, you know what I'm talking about. And I said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I heard something about what you might be talking about, but I don't know anything. And he goes, why don't you come talk to me about that? I think we could straighten it out. And I said, what? What'd you say? He says, yeah, can you meet me at such? And I'm like, that was the very first hint that there was a problem. This was on the way to the clinic in the morning. That cop said that to me. I'm like, what'd you say? He goes, can you meet me at, why don't you just meet me up at Casey's or whatever? And I said, okay, I got some errands to run, but yeah, okay, we'll talk about it. Click. And then all the way there, I'm like, man, why would that cop? Why would he want to meet me? So that's weird. That is weird. And so I called him back. I said, hey, listen, do I have some warrants? What are you doing? I mean, I'm not stupid, dude. Listen, I'm not going to meet you at Casey's. I mean, we both know that. I'm not coming to Casey's. You got my number. You can call me anytime you want. You know where I live. So, I mean, what's going on, dude? Why? I mean, he's like, well, I just want to talk to you. And I said, come on, dude. What is it? He wouldn't say, right? And neither would. I don't think my probation officer ever really said what the charges were. For what is that? Why is that a secret? I'm like, the cops don't know. Like, the cops don't know what the charges are. The probation officer doesn't know. I mean, they know it's a felony warrant, and usually they won't come looking for you. I don't know how it is in Florida, but they won't come after you maliciously or they won't purposely come for you unless it's a felony warrant. Usually. Now, I had a speeding ticket, and I'm sitting on my fucking couch, minding my own business with a speeding warrant. Who cares? And they kicked my door in. They didn't have to kick very hard, and they might not have kicked twice, but they did kick the fucking door in and come to my house and got me over a speeding ticket. I'm like, are you fucking that bored that you got to come around and harass me over a speeding ticket?
Well, maybe it's you. Maybe you
I had the whole
kind of attention in that.
Dude, I had the whole county. I had the whole county up in arms, dude. I mean, one thing I did was, forgot to mention this. This is part of why John wouldn't take the case. Forgot this whole part. I threatened I threatened to, I was serious. I meant this when I said it. I called one of the county, somebody in the county and said I was going to blow up the building. And I was fucking serious. I was like, I'm gonna fucking come there and blow that mother. You know what I mean? Well,
terrorist threats.
That's what got it. That's what got him, I think, not to want anything to do with the case. I think it was some to do with the publicity or something. But another thing that happened was I was in a pharmacy in Dora. All I'm doing, dude, listen to this. I'm talking on the phone, merely talking on the phone to a reporter of all things. I won't get into why I was talking to this reporter, but it had something to do with a gun. I can't even remember what the word gun got brought up in this conversation. And the cops came there and tried to arrest me inside of the pharmacy.
Right. Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why? Because I don't know. The pharmacy or somebody in the pharmacy must have got shook up about I was animated like that, talking on the phone. Another time, me and my wife were arguing. I was at the swimming pool. I think I told you this. I'm at the swimming pool. Okay, minding my own business. I got my phone with me, and it was on. I just called my wife, and my phone was still on, and she heard me say something to another woman. All I said was, "Hey, you're looking good," or something like that. Well, she blows up and starts screaming on the right, and I start screaming back. Kinda, not even really freaking out. The effing cops show up at the swimming pool, dude. This is all this shit's true. I swear, you can look it up. And they show up at you couldn't look this up. They show up at the swimming pool and tried to take me to jail. At the swimming pool, they had me out in the parking lot. Oh, they never handcuffed me, but almost. And if they would have, if I wouldn't have known the cop, and almost took me to jail over talking to my wife. So guess what? They wouldn't let me leave until I tracked her down and made sure that she was safe. I'm like, what do you think? I got her hidden in my swimming trunks or under my towel? It's like I kidnapped her or something. You know what I mean? It was just ridiculous. It's none of it was my fault, Matt. I didn't do anything to deserve any of that. You know what I'm saying? How could I?
I don't know. I feel like.
So when I got out of jail, I thought, man, I better shut up. Shut up. I don't want to know who the cops are in this town. And luckily, the chief of police or whatever, they've all retired and grown up, and they don't, you know what I mean? But when I go back to that jail to go to I went there the other day for a traffic ticket twice. I had to since then, and they all know me. They're, hey man, this is what they say, man, you got fat. You gained a bunch of weight. You look, I'm like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you stop doing that. Everybody gets. That's what usually happens. They say, well, it's, they were pretty cool. The jail was pretty respectful. But here's one thing. Why do they try to starve people in jail? What benefit is that, Matt? What do you think they're doing there? By not allowing people to eat enough?
I don't
What's
know.
the purpose of that?
I mean,
You don't know
saving
that?
money.
What would you
Saving
think?
money. Saving money. They're trying to save money.
You think that now listen, don't you think like 90% of the problems are in jail are related to food issues and stuff like that? You think they would, why couldn't they just serve an extra? I mean, doesn't it seem like it would be beneficial to freaking feed people to get them to stop being so?
I
mean,
don't know. I don't know, but we're in excess of 3.5 hours.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, never mind. All right.
So,
well, hey,
and
listen,
I'm tired, and it's 10.
you don't listen to my
pod.
you don't listen to my podcast all the time and constantly do this. Listen, I work all day, so I watch all the shit you do, and I'm constantly wanting to argue with you. I'm like, I want to jump through the screen and be like, no, dude, that's not. This is. What are you talking about? You know, you don't know me. So
number now. You can text me. Hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Please share the video. Consider joining my Patreon and leave me a comment. I really appreciate it. And please think about also buying a book. All the links are in the description box. See ya.